As usual, we gathered here again to listen to another dispensation of the Lord Buddha's teaching. And before we commence, let us remind ourselves that I am only the vehicle, I am not the master. I am not your master. The Supreme Buddha is my master. Infinite concentration and infinite wisdom. The infinite number of times he sacrificed himself in every birth since he started to fulfill the Bodhipaksika Dhamma, so that he could become a Supreme Buddha for no other purpose than to redeem you and I from samsara. When he clearly had every opportunity to do that for himself at the feet of Lord Dipankara, it was our Gautama Supreme Buddha whose resolve it was, this is not my destiny. I am here to redeem all sentient beings, you and I and everyone else, from the shackles of samsara. Reminding ourselves of that great qualities, those infinite qualities, the pinnacle of every great quality there ever is, there ever was, and there ever will be. Let us pay homage to the undefeated one, the perfect one, the unvanquished one, the omniscient one, the supremely enlightened one. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And also, before we commence, as usual, let's take a moment to observe the 5 precepts. And as usual, reminding ourselves that I'm having to observe these precepts yet again. There may have been instances where your resolve was not strong enough. The effort with which you exerted your mind was not strong enough to stop you from engaging in misdeeds, unwholesome acts. And therefore, yet again we are here today, having broken the 5 precepts. And yet again we are here today at the feet of the Supreme Buddha, asking for his infinite compassion, so that he may permit me to observe the 5 precepts once again, yet again. But let us all make a firm resolve that may this be the last time I have to observe these precepts. May the virtue entailed within these precepts become part of the very fabric of who I am, part of my conscience. May that virtue become part of who I am, and therefore may I never have to observe the precepts ever again. With that firm resolve and determination in mind, it is now time to observe these precepts. And in order to do so, I invite you all to chant the Namaskara 3 times, and all together. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami, Saranagamana sampunnam Panatipata veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Adinnadana veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Kame sumichachara veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Musavada veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Surameraya majjapama datthana veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami Tisaranena sadding panchasilang dhammang sadhukang surakkitang khatva appamadena sampadeta. Okay, may now all be seated. Also, before we commence, let us take a moment to invite the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead. Those beings who will have been our ancestors. Those beings who will have now predeceased us. There may be those among them who, because of their sacrifice on our behalf, perhaps they got involved and stopped us from engaging in misdeeds, unwholesome deeds. As a result of that, today you and I have had the privilege to be born human. However, they committed sins on our behalf, and today perhaps this is why they have been born in the woeful plains. Reflecting on that for a moment, let us invite all of them to join us. May they all join us, witness this meritorious deed, witness the offerings you have made to the Buddha, witness the offerings you have made to the Dhamma, witness the offerings you have made to the Sangha with great conviction in hearts and minds. May they rejoice in this meritorious deed, and may any of those who have been born in the woeful plains, by rejoicing in these meritorious deeds, be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains and be born in the blissful plains. And for all beings born in the blissful plains, may they be able to listen to this sermon, understand it, comprehend it, and be able to redeem themselves from the shackles of samsara by attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So, as I now make this invitation out to all those devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead, I request you all to extend that invitation in your hearts and in your minds, sparing a thought for everyone and anyone, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandparents and so on and so forth, not just in this birth but in your previous births, teachers, not just in this birth but in your previous births. If there has been anyone who might have helped you, supported you, assisted you in any way, shape or form, how little or how big or small, let us extend this opportunity to them. Today we have the gift of Dhamma, the gift which excels all gifts. It is now our time to pay back for what it is we owe them. So, as I now make this invitation, I request you all to extend that invitation in your hearts and in your minds. May they all join us, may they all witness this meritorious deed, redeem themselves from the woeful plains, and may they all be able to listen to this sermon, understand it, comprehend it, fulfill any gaps in their understanding, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Sadhamang Unirajasansa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang bhadanta. Most venerable members of the Mahasangha and the distinguished gathering, before we commence, let us all make a firm resolve that, reminding ourselves that although today our lives have changed, as the Dhamma has slowly but gradually become part of our lives have changed beyond imagination, our lives have transformed beyond imagination. You will know that you are not the person who used to be a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. This transformation is because of the Dhamma, not me. It's because of the Dhamma. However, throughout our infinitely long journey in samsara, we have not always had the opportunity to associate with noble ones, moral ones, who helped plant the seed of Dhamma in our minds. Virtually all our associations were with immoral, ignoble people. Those people who defiled our minds with raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion, blinded us with ignorance and bound us with attachment, avidya and tanha. And as a result of that, innumerable other times we will have offended the Aryas, the noble ones, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, Pacheka Buddhas, Arahatta Buddhas, Anagami, Sakrudagami, Sotapannas, be they on the path or having attained the fruits, as well as the Sambuddha Shasana, the Buddha's dispensation. For any words, actions or thoughts of abuse, slander and desecration that we might have directed towards them, either knowingly or unknowingly, today, the result of those deeds may be that our path in the Dhamma has been blocked. We may not be able to fulfill what it is that we hope to achieve by walking this path. So, before we commence, let us all make a firm resolve. For any words, actions or thoughts of abuse, slander and desecration that we might have directed towards the noble ones, may they find the compassion in their hearts to forgive us. That compassion is always there. It is just down to you and us to seek it. And finally, let us all make a firm resolve that through the course of this sermon, if there are any gaps in your understanding, in your knowledge, in your comprehension, which is the reason why you have not yet attained the state of Sotapanna, may through the course of this sermon you be able to fulfill those gaps. If there are any among you who have already attained that state, may you be able to fulfill the subsequent stages and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So with that firm resolve in mind, I invite you all to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. The alarm's not going to go off, is it? You have all come a long way, haven't you? All I had to do was come down from up there. But you've had to come a long way. Well, I suppose, not just in the literal sense, but also in the metaphorical sense. In that sense, all of us have come a very long way. I'd like to remind you at the very beginning something I spoke to you about towards the end of last week's sermon. I can see some new faces, and you're all welcome. But I must remind you what our purpose is of coming along. This is not a get-together. We're not here to have fun. We're not here to party. We are here to achieve one purpose and one purpose alone. One goal, one ambition. That is all we are here to achieve. That is why I'm here, and that is why you should be here. I didn't ordain for the fun of it. I didn't ordain for the sake of it. There was one purpose, one goal, one ambition. This goal, this ambition was a dream a long time ago. Or many countless births in samsara, this was a dream of mine. But that's all it ever was. A dream. A dream that was never going to come true. How do I rid myself of all suffering? How can I be happy? How can I find fulfillment in life and satisfaction in life? Where is it? Why is it so difficult to get hold of it? Why is it so elusive? Every time I think I'm there, it's gone. Every time you reach out, put your hand out to catch it, it's gone. Why is that? This is what we are here to understand. There are lots of things that you could have done on a Sunday afternoon. For those of you who are new, Sunday afternoons will usually be quite different to today, would it not? There'd be plenty of things if I asked you to write down a list of the things you could be doing right now. Instead of being here, I think you'd ask me for how many pages do you want in that book? You'd want a pretty hefty book to write that. There's lots of things we could be doing right now. Just think back at your lives and all the things that you've been doing. All these things to try and be happy. I'll come to that in a moment. But I want to remind you what I left you with last week. On one occasion, the Buddha addresses his monks. He says, monks, from the time that I resolved to become a Supreme Buddha, I have been fulfilling these perfections, the paramita. And the perfections are threefold. You will have heard of them, parami, upaparami, paramatta parami. And there's also another categorization, mano pranidhana, vachi pranidhana, kaya pranidhana. So this is how you fulfill those perfections. Initially you start with mano pranidhana, which is simply a mental resolve. I will do it. I will get it done someday when it happens. And then it turns into the vachi pranidhana. You express that verbally. You go looking for people that can help you with that. You go looking for teachers. Because remember, it was only until the Buddha sat down under the Bodhi tree, or the Bodhisattva, Gautama, or rather Siddhartha sat down under the Bodhi tree, he realized, I'm not going to find a teacher to help me do this. There's no teacher that can help me do this. Even in his last birth, did he not go looking for teachers to help him do it? To help him find salvation? You've heard of Uddaka Putta, Alara Kalam, right? Teachers that he went looking for. What's the science behind this? Give me something that I can use to get across this ocean of samsara. I'm suffering. I need help. Help me. Give me whatever you've got. And they gave him everything they got. Everything they got, he took, but nothing really helped him achieve what he wanted. So it was only under the Bodhi tree he realized, I'm never going to find a teacher to help me do this. So what happens if you go and find a teacher? What do you do then? You got to figure it out yourself. You got to figure it. That one thing he realized, I have to figure out myself. If you and I could have figured it out ourselves, how many of us would be here right now? If any of us were able to figure it out ourselves, would we be here right now? No, we wouldn't be here right now. Like I said, this is not a get-together. We're not here for the fun of it. I'm not here for the fun of it. At our monastery, we do about 8 hours of meditation every day. And on a Sunday, I have to break my meditation halfway through to come down and do this sermon. So I'm not doing this for the fun of it. I'd much prefer to continue doing my meditation, because the peacefulness, the calmness that I feel, the serenity I feel in my mind, I can't express in words. Because when I'm there, sat down with my eyes half shut, sat down in front of the Bodhisattva statue, taking occasional glances at him, just to remind myself what kind of dedication and commitment there was behind this figure, this great man, to help me get here, to help me do this. It sends a shiver down my spine. I feel rejuvenated. I feel energized. I feel a kind of bliss I cannot explain in words. I don't think I ever will be. The only way you're going to figure it out, the only way you're going to experience it, is one day when you start doing it. I can teach you the Dhamma, but I can't comprehend it for you. I can't understand it on your behalf. You've got to do it. Well, if the Buddha couldn't, how am I going to be able to do it? On your behalf? No, you've got to do it. So the Buddha says, monks, since I made my mental resolve that I was going to become a Buddha, from that point forward, all the way until the time I attained enlightenment, I came past 512,027 Supreme Buddhas. 512,027. 512,000. Can you imagine that? Buddhas? We're not talking cats and dogs. We're not talking arahants. We're not talking about Pacceka Buddhas. Pacceka Buddhas, sometimes there are hundreds of them at any given time. But in 10,000 world systems, there can only be how many Buddhas? One. We live in one world system, where there are 6 heavens, 16 Brahma worlds, human worlds. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go into the detail. There are 4 of them, but let's not get there, because I know that's going to unsettle you. And there are hells, 4 great hells. All of this together is a world system, 31 worlds in a world system. For 10,000 world systems, actually no, I got it wrong. 100,000 world systems, there's only one Buddha. Why did the number 10,000 come to me? Only beings who are in the nearest 10,000 can come along and listen to a sermon when you invite them. Those beings who live beyond the 10,000, they do not have enough of a lifespan to get here. Not even speed of light is enough for them to get here and listen to a sermon when we invite them to come along. But although you can't see them, they're here. If I can't see it, it's not there, right? You know, that was me all along. But I digress. I'll come there in a moment. I want to complete what the Buddha said. The Buddha said, 512,027 Buddhas I came past. Those of you who know will know that there's a period of time, a measure of time called an eon. Kalpa. You'll have heard that word, right? An eon. In Sinhala it's called a kalpa. Once when a monk goes and asks the Buddha, Venerable Sir, how long is an eon? He says, I cannot give you a number. Because this is an incalculable eon we are talking about. That's what it says on the tin. Incalculable. Means you can't count it. You can't finish counting it. So he says, I shall try to give you an analogy. Or a metaphor even. Or perhaps a simile of what an eon is. And he says, if you were to build yourself a box, let's take a cuboid, length, breadth and height, 16 miles each way, 16 miles long, 16 miles wide and 16 miles in breadth. 16 miles, that's about 23 kilometers, if my math is correct. 23 kilometers. Imagine that. Just think about your commute from home. How long is that commute? How long does it take you? Now imagine that as the crow flies. 23 kilometers in one direction. 23 kilometers in the other direction. And then breadth. Length, breadth and width. Or height. Build yourself a cuboid and fill this up with what did he say? What seeds? Mustard seeds. How big is a mustard seed? Well, you know the answer. Fill this up with mustard seeds. And then, once every 100 years, a man comes along and removes one seed. Once every 100 years. Someone comes along and removes a seed. One mustard seed. Can you imagine the volume of this thing? 23 kilometers long, 23 kilometers wide, 23 kilometers in height, filled with mustard seeds to the brim. One man comes along, removes one seed at a time, not every day, not every month, not every year, once every 100 years, once a century. The Buddha says, there will come a day when this box has been emptied of mustard seeds, but yet an incalculable eon has not yet elapsed. That is one incalculable eon. In the time we've come past in samsara, we have come past how many of these? Well, this is the metaphor the Buddha is about to give, which I'll explain to you now. You know, this is a Bhadrakalpa. In a Bhadrakalpa, there are 5 Buddhas come along in this one Kalpa. 5 supreme Buddhas come into this world and they preach the Dhamma. The Dhamma which disappears after a while, he comes along and discovers it. Not invent, but discover. The truth, this is the truth. You can't destroy the truth, it's just there. Sometimes it's hidden away, you just have to discover it. So this is what Supreme Buddhas do. 5 Buddhas come along in a Bhadrakalpa and they render this service to all sentient beings. But I think if there's anything that's rare in this world, in all of the universe, that must be a Bhadrakalpa. I can't think of anything that's more rare than a Bhadrakalpa. A Kalpa in which there are 5, we get to see the advent of 5 Supreme Buddhas. But most of the time that we come past in samsara are Kalpas which are void of Buddhas. For every Kalpa in which there is one Buddha, there's probably hundreds of thousands of Kalpas where there are no Buddhas. Void of a Buddha. Hundreds of thousands of Kalpas. No Buddha. For every Kalpa there is one Buddha. I'm talking about the ratio. For every Kalpa there is just one Buddha. Not talking about Bhadrakalpa. There is just one Buddha. There's probably hundreds of thousands of Kalpas where there are no Buddhas. 70,000 on some occasions the Buddha says himself. For 70,000 eons there was no Buddha. So he says, from the time I started fulfilling these perfections, when I started to do it mentally, I came past 512,027 Buddhas. Can you imagine how long that must have been? If a kalpa is that long, and most of the kalpas are those that are void of Buddhas. And for every kalpa there is one Buddha, there are about hundreds of thousands of kalpas without a Buddha. Can you imagine how much time must he have come past to come past 512,027 Buddhas? Now here's the thing. When he's asked the question, how long did you fulfill these perfections? He thinks, 512,027 Buddhas. It takes him that long to come up with that answer. A flash of a second. Because we are talking about a Supreme Buddha who is limitless in power, in supernatural power, in mental power, in psychic power. There's no limit to it. Infinite. How big is infinite? Oh, it's infinite. So he can look back as far as he wants. In the time it takes me to do this, he's looked back and he says, I have come past 512,000 Supreme Buddhas. Now you tell me, how many Buddhas might he have been able to look back in the time it takes me to do this? So twice. If this is how long it takes for him to look at the time he's come past, 505, let's keep it simple, 500,000 Buddhas. The time it takes me to do this twice, how many Buddhas? How many Buddhas? 1 million Buddhas. And then 3 times? 1,500,000. You get the idea? Okay. So if he had looked back into his past, let's say he did it for an hour, how many Buddhas do you think he'll be able to look at? Yeah, exactly. I can't even work it out. There you go. That's a guesstimate, I suppose. Billions of Buddhas, right? So he will have been able to look at the time that all these Buddhas came into this world, disseminated the Dhamma and passed away. Now, here's the shocking bit. If you remember from last week, he says, monks, I would like to offer you a simile. He says, monks, if you were to travel across this entire world, sweep the globe, and collect as you go along every blade of grass you can ever find, every tree from every leaf that you can ever find, every twig, every branch in every tree that you can ever find on this entire planet, bring it all to one place. Now chop them up into bits of 4 inches. And then once you've done that, start counting. Counting what? The mothers that you have come past in samsara. He says, piece 1, my mother. Piece number 2, my mother's mother. Piece number 3, my mother's mother's mother. So, great-grandmother. And then great-great-grandmother. Great-great-great-grandmother. You get the idea? So what he's saying is, take one bit, leave it, and count. That's one of your mother's mother. He says, you will have consumed all the twigs and leaves and blades of grass that you have collected, but you'll still be counting mothers' mothers. And then he says, it only took me that long to look back at that samsara and tell you that I have come past 512,000 Buddhas. In the time it takes me to do this, I can look back at 1 million Buddhas. In the time it takes me to do this, I can look back and tell you about 1,500,000 Buddhas. But despite that, monks, I cannot look at any of you and tell you when you started this journey in samsara. He says, I cannot see when you started this journey in samsara. Who's this saying? A Supreme Buddha. A Supreme Buddha saying, I, of all beings there is. This is not the great Elder Mugalan, who is chief among those with supernatural powers. This is not the great elder Sariputta, who is chief among those bhikkhus with wisdom. This is neither of them speaking. It's the Supreme Buddha speaking. The great elder Mugalang's supernatural powers is incomparable with the Buddha. Yes, he's chief, but this is the Buddha. There's nothing that can compare. He looks back at so far and says, I still cannot see when you started this journey in samsara. Does that not shock you? From head to toe? So, begs the question, what have we been doing all this long? What was I doing all this time in samsara? What have I been doing? How did I was doing something? I must have been doing something if I was alive. As a human, you would have been doing things. As an animal, I have. As a being in the four great hells, as a preta, spirits and demons. Actually, most of the time we spent in the four great hells. So we've been there. You've also been a deva. Yes. How many times? For every handful of water you take out of the ocean, whatever's left, whatever water's left in the ocean, that's the ratio between how many times you've been born as a deva compared to how many times you've been born in the four great hells. Sorry, not you, me. I don't want to upset any of you. I'm talking about myself. This is why I got on this stage, to give you a talk about myself. That's how many times I've been a deva compared to how many times I've been born in the four great hells. I'm talking about me, okay? Don't anyone take any offense. I'm talking about me. You were not like that. You were the other way around. But me, this is how I was. For every time I was born a Brahma, that's one grain of sand of all the grains of sand there is on this planet. That's the ratio between how many times I was born a Brahma and the times I was born in the four great hells. Not you, me. So no one has to take any offense. So again, begs the question. I was born a Deva. I was born a Brahma. I'm now a human being, not for the first time. I was born an animal, a spirit, demons. What was I doing all this time? I must have been doing something. What do you think you were doing? Not a lot different to what you're doing right now. Not very different to what you're doing right now. Not much different. It's the same old stuff. Different clothes, different day, same thing. It's like going to work. Different clothes, different day, but same old stuff, right? And what happens when you wear that set of clothes to work? You bring it home, you wash it, and you wear it another day. That's how our life was in samsara. I was born a demon, and then at the end of that existence, took off my clothes, put it in the washing, only to do what? Oh, just put it back on another day. I was like going to work. So what have we been doing? Not very different to what you're doing right now. And what is it you're doing right now then? I don't mean right now in this very room, although it is still the same thing. But in your existence, in this birth as a human being. Because I know there may be those among you who do not like to think about past lives or lives in the great hells. I mean, how can you prove it? How can we even know that there are great hells? Well, of course, the animal realm we can see because they're among us. There's flies and mosquitoes and birds and bees and beasts. But still one could question, okay, that's them. What makes you think that I'm going to be born as one of them? Don't you feel like that? I'm born, I live, I die, that's the end of it. Aren't there those among you who feel that way? Aren't there those among you who feel, I'm never going to go into the great hells? A Deva? Okay, maybe. Brahma? Yeah. Animal? Nah. Me? Next door Sam might. Me? Nah. Look at me. I'm such a nice person. I'm the best there is. There's never been a better model than me. Right? Look at me. Isn't that how you feel? I used to feel like that. I believed in that. I didn't believe in any of this next births, previous births, because I was a very materialistic person. That was the upbringing I had. So I'm sharing a little bit of that because, well, I said I'm going to talk about myself today, not you. Talking about myself. You came here to listen. Now listen. So I'm talking about myself. But the reason I share this story is because I know that there'll be among you those who can relate to this. So while I'm talking about myself, I think there's something you can do. See how your life relates to this life. Are there much differences? Or is it much the same? It's very fair for you to question, why did I ordain? And quite openly and honestly, I share this response with a lot of people. And I'll share it with you today as well. I ordained because I had problems. Issues. I had issues. What kind of issues did I have? Do you know what issues I had? I had money problems. I did. Money problems. Do you know I have money problems? No? Oh wow, okay. You're well off. I had money problems. I had women trouble. Women problems. Issues. This is why I ordained. I had food problems. This is why I ordained. And now you're thinking, yeah, I knew it. Complete failure, right? This is why I ordained. Unlike you, because of surely you don't have any of these problems. This is why you haven't ordained. So you don't have money problems, but I have, or I had, so I ordained. You don't have food problems. This is why you haven't, but I have. I had, this is why I ordained. And you didn't have women problems. You don't, do you? Young men in the room? Women trouble? No? Issues? No. I had. So I ordained. Complete failure in life, right? I'm a complete loser. With a big L across my forehead. Go on, do it. This is why I ordained. But much the same like you, ever since I came into this world, and because of the upbringing I had where I was taught to take life as it comes, only believe what you can see, only believe in what you can hear, only believe in what your senses can perceive. Now, there's nothing beyond that. That was the upbringing that I had. And so, in the world that I could perceive, I tried to seek happiness. Is there anyone here who doesn't like to be happy? Anyone? I don't like to be happy. Anyone? Good. Is there anyone here who does anything in their lives to not be happy? Anyone? So would you agree with me then that everyone here, whatever you do to be happy in your life? Isn't that the purpose of our lives? To be happy? What about your family? Your mothers, fathers, the things that they did in their lives, including bringing you into this world. Why did they do it? Was it not for their happiness? Was it not? Why do you make friends? Why do you discard some friends? Don't like them. I no longer want to be your friend. Why? Is it not for the purpose of happiness? Why do you wake up in the morning? Is it not for happiness? Why? Because if you lay in bed all day, who's going to earn your living? You've got to go and do your job. Why do the job? Earn money. Why? Buy all the things that you like. Why? Why? Come on, speak out. Why? I'm not talking about things that I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm talking about the things that you do. So surely you should be able to answer. I'm imagining these are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm asking you, why do you earn money? Why do you want to buy all the things that you like? To be what? Happy. So simple, right? To be happy. How long have you been trying to be happy? Here's my question. When did you start trying to be happy? Was it the day you started your job? Before that you didn't try to be happy? What about your previous job? Why did you take up your previous job? Was it not to be happy? Hang on then, why did you change jobs? You took up that previous job that you were in, your previous employment, to be happy. So why did you give that up and move on to another job? Again for happiness. Does that not say something about your previous employment? Okay, what about prior to employment? A lot of you will have been to university, like I did. Graduated, studied all sorts of things about the world, about yourself. For what purpose again? For what purpose? Happiness. And then prior to that, did we all go to school? Yes? Thankfully. So you all had a school education, or you still have one. Why? What purpose? Is it not happiness every single time? For every question I'm asking you, is it not the same answer? Resounding the same answer. Happiness, 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 happiness. Time and time again. Yes or no? Yes. So you got out of bed so you could go to school. You're going to have to do that tomorrow. You got out of bed to go to work, madam. You're going to have to do that tomorrow. You got out of bed, sir, so you could go take a wash. Get a shower. Why? What happens if you don't take a shower? Well, not just you, but people around you are also going to lose their happiness. So again, for happiness, you go take a shower. Why do you run to the toilet when you feel the urge? Not for happiness? What happens when you relieve yourself of that pain? Is the end result not happiness? Why do you go to the doctor when you're ill? Why do you take a paracetamol when you got a headache? Why do you grow plants in your garden? Is it not for happiness? Why do you play games? Why do you play sport? Why do you like Angry Birds so much? Is it not for happiness? Why do you watch so much television? Why do you like reading the newspaper? Why do you like visiting your friends? Why do you like baking cakes and cooking all types of new recipes at home? Do you realize that every time you look to your left, every time you look to your right, every time you look up or down, you're looking for happiness? Do you realize that every time you breathe in, you're looking for happiness? I'll prove it to you. How? Hold your breath for 10 seconds. Now hold it for another 10. And another 10. Why did you start breathing again? What did you want? Happiness. When you're asleep at night, why do you roll in bed? What are you looking for? Happiness. You're sat down on this chair right now. After a while you're going to start to shuffle yourself. When you sat down, you thought this was the best posture for me. But then after a while you started to shuffle yourself. Left bum, right bum, right? What for? Happiness. Do you realize then? From brushing your teeth, combing your hair, waking up in the morning, going to the toilet, getting back into bed at night, covering yourself up with a duvet, going to work, eating, sleeping, drinking, making babies, all these things you've been doing in your life was for one purpose and one purpose alone. Agree or not? Any doubts? Any suspicions? Any objections? Okay. I was much the same. So we're all seeking happiness in life. But when I ask you, when did you start looking for happiness? You tell me, from the moment I came into this world. What are you doing right now? What are you looking for right now? Happiness. So how many years have you been looking for happiness now? Well, you know the answer. That many years, you've all been looking for happiness. How many more years are you going to be looking for happiness? Give me at what age are you going to stop looking for happiness? You go, right, that's it, okay, found it. No more looking for happiness. Well, if you can't look into your future, let's look at your grandparents for a moment. If your grandparents are still alive, or let's say your parents, what do they do every day? Much the same things that you do. For what? Happiness. Of course, they might today have retired. Because although they want to work in the pursuit of happiness, their employment doesn't want to keep them there. So what do? They kick them out. You can't come find happiness here. Get lost. Go and find your own happiness, they said. And your grandparents? And your great-grandparents? So, if your parents didn't find happiness by the age of 70, what are the chances of you finding it by the age of 70? This is why you're always looking. One day, as you walk along the road, you meet a man. He looks famished, pretty exhausted, tired. You ask him, hey, mister, what's up? He says, I'm so thirsty. I need a drink of water. I'm so thirsty. And you say, oh, right, okay, don't worry. I came past this pool. There was a lot of water in there. If you just walk down this path, you're going to find it, and then you can drink as much water as you like. So you bid farewell, and you go on your journey. Once you've attended to your chores, you've done your whatever you wanted to do, you're now on your way back. And you come across this man again. He's sat down by a tree, and he's still panting. He's still famished, still thirsty. You ask him, what's wrong? I'm still looking for that water you said I was going to find. Tell me. He's still looking for water, right? He's still looking for water. Why? Because he's found it? Is that why he's still looking? Is that why every step he takes he's still looking for water? Is that because he's found it? No. You meet another man. You ask him, hey mister, what's up? He says, I've got a dream. I want to be a millionaire. And you say, oh, good on you. Good luck, mate. I want to be a millionaire. Right, good luck. So you ask him, how are you going along on your ambition? How is it coming along? He says, well, I'm about a quarter of the way there. Why don't you meet me in a year's time and we can chat and see how we're doing?
So you can't wait another year. You follow up the next month. You go and meet him. Hey, how's it going? Did you achieve your million? Are you now a millionaire? You ask him, what do you want to be? Well, the first day he met you, he said he wanted to be a millionaire. You ask him today, again he's saying, I want to be a millionaire. Does that not tell you he's not found his million yet? He's not made his million yet. Does that not tell you that? Does it not tell you that? You follow up again another 6 months later. He's about a third of the way there. And you ask him, how's it going? What's your ambition? He says, I want to be a millionaire. Is he saying he still wants to be a millionaire because he's a millionaire, or is he still trying to be one? He's still trying to be one. When is the day you ask him the question, what is your ambition? And he does not respond, I want to be a millionaire. What day is that? Absolutely, sir. The day he becomes a millionaire. So, you met the first man walking along the street. He said, I'm still thirsty. He's still thirsty because he said he's still looking for water. He's still looking for water because he hasn't found water. The second man you met said, I want to be a millionaire. He still wants to be a millionaire 6 months later because he still hasn't become a millionaire. I asked you the question, what is your purpose in life? You tell me. You want to be happy. What does that tell you? If you're 10 years of age, if you're 20 years of age, 30 years of age, 40 years of age, 50, 60, 70 years of age, I'm asking you the question. 70 years after you started looking for happiness, I'm asking you, what do you want to be? And you tell me, I want to be happy. What is that telling us? Have you found it? Have you found it? Isn't that why you're still looking? The day you find it, will you still be looking? Ask an Arahant, Venerable Sir, what is your ambition in life? He says, what? I have no ambitions. Ask the Buddha, Venerable Sir, what is your ambition in life? What does he say? I have no ambition. When can a man say, I have no ambition? When he has achieved everything he wants to achieve. What is everything you want to achieve? As we just went through, your life, your day-to-day life. Wake up in the morning, go to bed, go to sleep, go to work, go to school, cook, eat. Make children, get married, have a girlfriend, have a boyfriend, have a chat with a friend. All these things you say to be happy. So your ambition in life every day, every waking moment is to be happy. When are you going to stop answering that question with, my ambition is to be happy? When do you think you're going to give me that answer? The day you are happy. So why are you not giving me that answer right now? Why when I ask you what is your purpose, you tell me, I want to be happy? Tomorrow do you not want to be happy? Let's keep it simple. Okay, it's 4:45 now. At 5 o'clock, what do you want to be? What do you want to be at 5 o'clock? What about 7 o'clock tonight? What do you want to be? 12 midnight, what do you want to be? And how about tomorrow then? What about next week? What about next year when you plan that trip to Singapore? Why do you want to go there? To be happy. Why are you still trying to be happy? What does that tell you? Have you found it? After 70 years? After 60 years? After 50 years of looking for happiness, have you found it? 40, 30, 20, whatever age you are, have you found it? Isn't that why you're still looking? I was much the same. All my life I looked for happiness. I did a lot of the things that you have done already, and a lot of the things that you are planning on doing in the future. There are young people here who I know have lots of hopes, dreams and ambitions and goals. Well, I did too. After my education in Sri Lanka, family and I, we went to the UK, which is where we settled down, to make a life out for us there. Why? To be what? Sad? Happy. After college, I started working. I started working in banking. To be happy, because a job in a bank makes you what? What does a job in a bank make you? Yeah, whatever. Happy, right? That's what they said. But while I was working in a bank, I really wanted to save up so I could go and study medicine. That was my ambition from a very young age. Why? Because what does a doctor help you be? When you're a doctor, what are you? Happy, right? Yeah. That's why we have doctors who come along and listen to sermons, because they've found happiness. They've found happiness. I don't know why they're coming here then. They're still looking. But what did people tell me? Become a doctor and you shall be happy. But along that journey I decided, I didn't want to go through all the trouble of becoming a doctor. 5 years of medical college and all that hard work and sleepless nights. I thought, I don't want, I was never one to work hard for happiness. I always wanted to work smart. I didn't want to work hard for happiness. I wanted to work smart. I knew that life was ticking by every moment. So this precious life of mine is not to work hard. It's to work smart. So I thought, what way can I earn my happiness by working smart? Well, I was already in the bank. What do they have in the bank? Money. What do they have in the hospitals? Patience. So surely, if I want to be happy, which of these two brings happiness? Money or patience? Money brings happiness. That's what they said. So what did I do? I continued working in the bank. Although I wanted to continue my education, so I went out and did my degree. I studied computer engineering. Again, worked smart, not hard. Worked smart. And working smart, I got some good qualifications that came out of that. And then I went back into banking. And then I continued working there for 5 years after that. Earned a lot of money. Why? Because money brings what? Happiness, right? Yeah, that's what Steve Jobs said on his deathbed. What did he say? Money brings? Have you read his autobiography? What did he say? Money brings happiness, right? No. But that's what everyone he was with told him. And that's what everyone I associated told me. So I started to earn my millions. I wanted to be a millionaire. I saved up, started investing in property, started investing in the stock markets, in cryptocurrencies. That was the trend then. I made a lot of money out of it, I must admit. Not I, but the person before I ordained. That person made a lot of money out of it. Now I don't have any money. But all this I did for one purpose. What was that purpose? What purpose was that? Happiness. Just like each and every one of you. There will be those among you who will have already done what I have done. There will be those among you who are still hoping, dreaming, having ambitions to do the things that I just said I've already done. Oh, I also got married. What for? To seek what? Happiness. Because where is happiness? In marriage. Well, those who are married will know. Those of you who are married can confirm that, right? Where is happiness? In marriage. The only thing I couldn't try out was have kids. Thankfully. Although people started to speak, they started to talk to us. Hey, you've been married for some time now. You know, you should think seriously about this stuff. It's about time. People said. Thankfully, I didn't fall into that trap. Because around that time, I got to listen to the Dhamma. But those of you who have children, why did you have children? To be happy. Because happiness is in what? Is in what? Children. Now, you see, I have a question though. You took education because happiness was in education. You then went to university, you started doing a job because happiness was in doing the job. You started earning money because happiness is in money. You bought a house, bought cars, yachts, I don't know. I don't know what you guys own. Probably lots of stuff. Jewelry, ornaments. You traveled the world, went to every country there is on this planet in the pursuit of happiness. Because you thought that's where happiness is. How many times did you think that? Of the times that you thought, this is where I'm going to find happiness, how many times did it come true? How many times were you right versus how many times were you wrong? Because if you were right the first time, which was happiness is in education, or happiness is in money, you wouldn't have bothered with all the other stuff that you've done, would you? If happiness is in money, then why do you have to travel the world? You've got money, right? Happy. You've got kids. That's it. We don't need to do anything else. Happy now. But you never stopped, did you? Time after time after time, you tried out. You just kept trying. But a good pat on the back to you though. You never stop. You never give up. Wow. Now that is really something. You just never give up. Like the Energizer Bunny. You just don't give up, do you? No matter what people say, you'll do it. Why? To find happiness. And when it doesn't work out, what do? What else can I try? Next thing. Okay, let's try that as well. Try it. Again fail. And then again, what else can I try? You keep going back to the same shop, buying the same old stuff. On each of those items there's a label, this brings happiness, this brings happiness, this brings happiness. Then you work hard, you spend money, you and buy those things. You bring them home, only to find, no. When was the last time you returned something because you couldn't find the happiness you thought you were going to have in it? When was the last time you returned your wife? To your in-laws. Hey, you said she was going to make me happy. Now I can't stand the sight of her. Take her back. You probably wished to do it. When was the last time you returned your child? No. Makes me angry all the time. Doesn't do anything I say. This wretched thing. Take it back. The thing is, you signed the terms of the contract, which said, no returns. No returns and no refunds. You spent 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life. 60 years of precious life trying to find happiness. You have still not found it. How much longer are you going to keep trying? There may be some among you who dedicated their entire working life to one workplace, perhaps your company. You may be dedicated to your employer. Maybe 10 long years with the same company. 10 years you were looking for happiness working at that company. At the end of those 10 years you realize, hey, no, I didn't find happiness. Now I challenge you. Go back to your employer, the guy who hired you, and say, hey, mister, you said I was going to be happy in this job. But I'm not. Isn't this why you're trying to move along? Trying to move on to another job? This is why you're trying to move on, right? You said I was going to be happy in this job. So I sacrificed 10 years of my life. And remember, 10 years of life is not just the 9 to 5 you spend at work. What about the time you spend on the train getting to work? What about the time you spend on the bus getting back from work? What about the time you prepare yourself for the next day? Isn't that all time you are dedicating from your precious life towards your work? I'm not saying any of this is wrong or don't do it. I want you to think. Particularly because we have some new faces here today, young people. I want you all to think, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not talking really deep, profound stuff today, although we'll touch some of it towards the end. But I want you all to think. Think about where it all went wrong. Have you just been dancing to someone else's beat? The world said jump. You said, how high should I jump? The world said run, and you asked, how fast? The world said go. You said, how far? The world said dance. You said, which one? The world said, and you complied. When I say the world, what do I mean by the world? Am I talking about the globe? No. Lokaya. You get the meaning behind that, right? People that you associate in life. Starting from whom? Starting from whom? Parents. Mother and father. And then your siblings. And then grandparents. And then nephews, nieces, uncles, aunts, friends, associates, your co-workers, your colleagues, all these people. Because they know a certain way to be happy, or at least they think that's how to be happy. So what do? Remember, they're not doing anything out of spite. They're not doing anything to pull you into a lurch or throw you into the lurch. They're only showing you what they think is right. So everyone who said to me, work hard, earn a lot of money, said so because that's what they thought is how you can be happy. But can you name one person that died happily? Is he still not wanting to be happy? Someone dies at 3:47. At 3:46, what's he wanting to be? Happy. Good heavens. Who dies happily? Only one who doesn't have an ambition dies happily. Because for as long as you have an ambition, you still want to make it happen. You have a goal, you have a dream. By the way, I'm not saying don't have goals, don't have dreams, because that would be so negative, wouldn't it? You might wonder, why are you addressing a young audience and saying, don't have dreams, don't have goals, don't have ambitions? That's not what I'm saying. Please don't get me wrong. I'm saying have the right goals, Not don't have goals, have the right goals. I'm not saying don't have dreams. Am I, sir? No. I'm saying have the right dreams. I'm not saying don't have ambitions. Have the right ambitions. Dreams, goals and ambitions that will get you to happiness. Not that which others say will get you to happiness. I'm going to ask you a really simple question. Let's say you decide you want to do a major in, okay, that's American speak, masters. You want to do a masters in physics, okay? Let's imagine you want to do a masters in physics. And you're looking for a teacher. You're looking for a teacher. You're looking for a teacher to help you study, to do what? Masters in physics. Now you go looking for one. You go looking for a teacher. Tell me, what is the most basic qualification that your teacher must have before you decide to take lessons from this person? Passed his scholarship? Okay. What about grade 8? No enough? Surely O-levels, I mean that's pretty close, right? O-levels? 10 A's. That's a good teacher, right? To teach you for a master's in physics? Yes? No? Okay, what about a bachelor's degree in physics? Surely. Still no? What's the basic, the most minimum qualification then? A master's. So the only person you would take lessons from to teach you to study for a master's in physics is someone who also has a master's in physics. Yes or no? All agree? Okay. You tell me that your purpose in life is happiness. Who did you take lessons from? What must be their most basic qualification? They must be Did you check their qualification before you took lessons from them? Your mother and father having a fight at home. Everyone's seen that. A brawl, maybe. And then at the end of that, an argument, okay? Something that makes them angry, something that makes them sad. At the end of that, they come and say, Puta, you're coming of age right now, right? It's about time you got married. Who's giving you lessons to get married? Someone who's a success or a failure in marriage? Think. Who have we all been taking lessons from all along in our lives? You wouldn't go and take lessons from a person or a teacher who hasn't got a master's in physics if a master's is what you want to do. For something as simple, something so minuscule, something so infinitesimal as a physics degree, you would only consider taking lessons from a person who has a master's in physics. And yet, this project that you call life, who did you go taking lessons from? People who failed every single time. Which project has the greatest failure rate? Absolutely, madam. You know the answer. There's one project that has failed every single time. And alas, it doesn't stop another project manager coming along and taking up the same project, doing exactly the same things that people prior to him previously have done. Taking lessons learned? Oh no. What does PMP say? Take lessons learned. What does Prince 2 say? Take lessons learned. But do you take lessons learned? No. Every project management principle there is says, take lessons learned. Don't make the same mistakes your predecessors did. But what did you do? You took lessons every time from someone who failed the project of life. There's this one project whose failure rate is 100%. And yet, you accept the risk. Throughout samsara, how many times have you failed this project? How many times did you fail this project? Versus the times you won this project. You succeeded in this project. Anyone here who succeeded this project? Yes. Anyone else? No. Not yet. Me? Not yet. He? Not yet. Those monks at the back? Not yet. You? Not yet or never will? You decide. Not yet is okay. Never will? Shocking. This is where you went wrong. Ignorance was the only thing that people fed into your minds. Do this, it's going to make you happy. Do that, it's going to make you happy. You didn't stop to question. You didn't stop to check their qualifications. Whatever they said that you took as gospel truth. They beat the drum, you danced. They said jump, you said high, how high? They said run, you said how fast? They said go, you asked how far? Shame on you. I did the same thing. So what is happiness then? If happiness is not what people say it is, and if happiness is clearly not what people say it is because you've done pretty much a lot of things that people have said is what you ought to do to be happy, haven't you not already? Those of you who are of middle age by now, have you not already done a lot of the things that people have said? This is what you ought to do to be happy. Anyone here who's homeless? Anyone here who can't feed themselves 3 square meals a day? Anyone here who can't send their children to school? Anyone here who has no potential to get married if they wanted to? Whatever you've tried so far, you're still wanting to do something else. Does that not tell you you've still not found happiness? So then, what is happiness? That's a really simple question, right? Or is it? All our lives we've been looking for this one thing, but you know where it went wrong? You didn't stop to ask, what is happiness? You asked, how do I do it? You asked, where do I find it? You asked, who can show it to me? But you were like the sheep behind a shepherd. Don't look for a shepherd. Because if you are walking after a shepherd, what does that make you? If there's a shepherd standing in front of you with a stick in his hand and he's saying jag jag, what does that make you? Yes, sheep. When did a sheep ever question, excuse me, shepherd, I don't think that's where we should be heading. I think we should be heading that way. Ever heard a sheep say that? Maybe Shaun the sheep says that, but that's on a cartoon. In real life, sheep don't have the intelligence to question. Who here wants to be a sheep then? So don't look for a shepherd. Look for a teacher. Because when you have a teacher, you're not a follower. What are you? A student. Never be a follower. Don't follow me. Here's your teacher. Be a student. Because a teacher never says, do as I do, do as I say. A teacher says, listen to me, analyze what I'm saying, see if it makes sense to you, apply it into your lives, come up with some conclusions. Now decide for yourself. That's a teacher. Can you not ask questions of a teacher? When you're in the presence of a teacher, can you not ask questions? Of course you can. But if it's a shepherd standing in front of you and you're a sheep, can you ask questions? No. Now you just do as you're told. I did as I was told, ladies and gentlemen, for 30 long years of my life. I did as I was told. 30 years I failed that project. But the rest of it, I know how to make it right. So what is happiness then? To answer that question, let's think about what are some of the things that make us unhappy? What are some of the things that take away our happiness? You can name some, come on. What are some of the things that take away your happiness? Nothing? Oh, I should be sat there and you should be sat here then. What are some of the things that take away your happiness? Speak out. I don't bite, don't worry. Yes. Losing things you own. Does that not make you all unhappy? Yes. What else? What about not only things but people? Yes. Things and people. What about events? You expect an event to turn out a certain way and it doesn't. This is when event organizers have a nightmare. Things don't turn out the way you planned it. What else makes you unhappy? Sickness. Sickness, ailments, illnesses, diseases make us unhappy. What else? Death. Yes? So losing someone can be temporary or it can be permanent, like death. What about having to associate with people or things that you don't like? Not being able to associate people or things that you do like is one, but that's piyehi vipayogo dukkho. What about apiyehi sampayogo dukkho? Having to associate with people that you don't like. What's the best example? Starts with W and ends with K. O and R in the middle. Work. Do you love everyone at work? Do you really get along with everyone at work? But do you have a choice? No. Oh, actually, there's a better example. Starts with F and ends with Y. Family. You don't get along with everyone. Is that a secret? Neighbors don't get along. So this is all suffering. Now, I have a question for you. Anyone here doubt that old age brings unhappiness? Anyone? No? All sure? Agree? Okay, old age. Death. All in agreement that it brings us unhappiness? Sadness? Takes away our happiness? Yes? Disease. Yes or no? Yes. Old age, disease, decay, and death. Now, the Buddha speaks of suffering, does he not? 4 noble truths. You will have heard this countless times, more times than there are hairs on your head. What? The Four Noble Truths. What are the Four Noble Truths? Suffering. More suffering. Even more suffering. And lots more suffering. Yes? That's what Buddhism is after all, right? It's just a pile of suffering. Suffering, 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 suffering. Did he really not have anything better to do than just talk about suffering? A lot of other religions, they talk about being happy. They talk about joy. Joy in the heavens. Happiness in the heavens. But the crux of Buddhism is all about suffering. When the core of most other religions is about what? Happiness. But the core of Buddhism is what? Suffering. You picked the wrong what? You wanted to be happy, and you have picked a religion whose crux, the center, the middle, that most fundamental philosophy is about what? Suffering. How do you think you're going to be happy then? You picked the wrong class. You came to the wrong school. You've heard of the Buddha in his first discourse say what? Jati Pacchaya, Jara, Marana, Shoka, Parideva, Dukkha. Oh my God. On and on and on and on about what? Just suffering and suffering and suffering and suffering. Is that not exhausting? So much suffering. Why can't we be happy for once? Let's talk about happiness. So you all agree, death, or rather disease, decay. Most of you will probably think, no, birth, I mean, that's surely happiness. Birth is happiness, right? Being born is happy, right? Don't just nod your head because I'm saying so. Remember, I was a very materialistic, very speculative person. I didn't take anything for granted, and I don't want you to take it either. Just because it's a Swami Nuhanse preaching a sermon. I say the Buddha was great, and you go, yeah, the Buddha was great. You don't know the first thing about the Buddha. I say life is all suffering. You go, yep, has to be. But what do you want to do tomorrow? Live life. Why? Be happy. So why did you nod your head then? This is why I say, don't take anything I say, not one word, because I'm a monk, because there's a statue of the Buddha on my right hand side, because there are other monks here, because you are in a monastery, you're in the presence of the Sangha, because you're clad in white, because it's the right thing to do, because you shouldn't argue with the monk, it's not right, it's wrong, you have to agree every time a monk says something. You're never going to attain Nibbana that way. You're never going to seek happiness that way, because this is what you did with everyone else that came and tried to teach you happiness. You didn't question. You did what? Yep. Absolutely spot on. That's what I have to do as well. That's where you went wrong. So don't do the same thing again. Death, disease, decay. Let's leave birth to aside for a moment. Death, disease, decay. Brings us happiness or sadness? Takes away your happiness? Yes or no? Yes. And the things that the Buddha said. Jati Pacchaya Jara, disease or decay. Marana, death. Shoka, sorrow. Parideva, lamentation. Despair, frustration, discontentment. All of these things, is it new to you that these things are suffering? Have you only just realized that death is suffering? Thank heavens you came along to this sermon, right? All this time you thought death was what? So good and joyful. And all of a sudden you've just learned, no, death is suffering. Oh. Have you only just realized that? Have you only just realized that disappointment is suffering? Frustration is suffering? Taking away something that you own, something that you like is suffering. Have you only just realized that? There's a baby in a cot. It's got a rattle in its hand. You pull it. What's he going to do? Cry. Why? Because the baby has understood the 4 noble truths. Right? You go to a funeral. It's your neighbor. He's a Christian. Mother's died. The poor guy's crying, his eyes out. He's realized that death is suffering because he's realized what? The 4 noble truths, hasn't he? You go to the hospital. There's a man in bed. He's fighting for his life. He's struggling to stay alive. He's got a cancer. You sit by his side. Hey, mister, what's up? I've got this cancer. I'm dying. This is why I'm crying. I'm going to lose my family. Everything I worked so hard to own, all of that is going to be lost. When are you dying? Tomorrow, the doctor said. He's crying. So, he has realized that death, disease and decay is suffering. Has he not? This is why he's crying. So you think, surely this guy has understood the 4 noble truths. You ask him, what religion are you? He says, I'm a Muslim. He's realized the 4 noble truths, hasn't he? Well, what about you? Have you not cried in your life? In the face of death? In the face of disease? In the face of decay? In the face of losing something that you own and you like? Someone's stolen it? When you lost your girlfriend, when your girlfriend gave you the boot, how did you feel? Yay! Is that how you felt? No, if that's how you felt, then you gave her the boot before she did. Only you forgot to tell her about it. There will be those among you who will have lost your parents by now. You're never going to see them again. Did you not cry? Did you not weep for days on? Why? Because you understood the 4 noble truths. Yes? Siddhartha, Prince Siddhartha, when he took that journey with Channa, his minister, on the chariot, going round the kingdom, he saw some things, didn't he? What were some of the things he saw? He saw what? An old man, a sick man, a dead man, and an ascetic. Put the ascetics to a side. He saw the other 3, didn't he? And then what did he do? He asked Channa, what's going on here? Doesn't make sense. Channa says, old man, sir. Sick man, sir. Dead man, sir. What do you mean, old man, sick man, dead man? Channa must have asked, what do you mean, what do you mean? This is what's going to happen to you. This is going to happen to me? Yep. It's going to happen to you. To me? A prince who is destined to own half this land? Half this country? I am destined for this? Do you not think that would have been the conversation between them because they were so close? Surely you're kidding me, right? Very good question, sir. Very good point. Anyone who lives with their parents know that parents age. No matter what they do in terms of cosmetics to beautify themselves, surely, at least a grey hair. And someone who is as intelligent, so witty, so clever, like the Prince Siddhartha would have gone and asked, Father, what's that hair on your head? Why is it a different color to every other hair? Would he not have asked such a question? Of course he would have asked. The point being, when he saw these 3 sights, did that not shock him? Did he not feel fear? Did he not feel a deep sense of sorrow when he realized this is going to happen to me as well? Did that bring him happiness or sadness? Did that not take away his happiness? That's because he had realized the Four Noble Truths, right? Think before you answer. I'm talking about who? Prince Siddhartha, not the Buddha. Is that because he had realized the Four Noble Truths? Well, what did he do then under the Bodhi tree? Why did he go and spend 6 years as an ascetic if he had already discovered the Four Noble Truths? Do you get my point? Then, why does Buddhist philosophy talk about death being suffering, disease being suffering, aging being suffering? Is that the suffering that we really need to talk about? Is that the suffering that we need to ponder and consider and contemplate? You go and talk to a Muslim man, he says, I'm going to die tomorrow with my cancer. I'm suffering. That's not because he's understood the Four Noble Truths. And like you say, sir, from a young age, Prince Siddhartha would have experienced some form, at least he would have had a headache or a fever. That would have brought him pain. But at that moment when he was going out with Channa and he saw those sights, that was when it really hit him. Like a poisoned arrow, it hit his heart. It was like a groundbreaking moment. This is going to happen to me and I really, really, really need to do something about this. But had he realized the Four Noble Truths by then? No. That being the case, then you tell me and give me an intelligent answer. The first noble truth of suffering is that death is suffering, disease being suffering, decay being suffering, old age being suffering. Is that the first noble truth of suffering? Can it be that? Is it even possible that the first noble truth of suffering can be death, disease, decay, old age, despair, resentment, frustration, lamentation, sorrow, weeping? Can it be that? Can it? Think. Can it ever be that? No. Because if that were the case, the Bodhisattva would not have had to bother all that time along. He should have just gone and asked a Muslim man. What's suffering? Disease, decay, old age, death. Oh, thank you. I'm now a Buddha. Do you realize then, ladies and gentlemen, that the first noble truth, and the second noble truth, and the third noble truth, and the fourth noble truth, what is that? Suffering, lots more suffering, and a great deal more suffering. That's how you see it, right? All Buddhism is talking about is suffering, 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 suffering. But that's not the suffering that you've been experiencing in your life all along. When the Buddha attained Buddhahood, he proclaimed, he said, never, ever before have I understood suffering. This is the first time in samsara that I have understood suffering. In this world full of its humans, devas, brahmas, demons, there is no one without my help who will be able to understand suffering. Is that why when you go to the cancer hospital, that man who's gasping for his breath, who's going to be dying tomorrow, he's crying because he's going to die tomorrow. Did he seek refuge with the Buddha? Had he taken instruction from the Buddha? No, he's a Muslim man. He's a Christian. He's a Hindu. Then that's not the suffering we need to talk about. That's not what suffering is. That suffering we all know. We've all felt. We've all experienced. The suffering that the Buddha talks about is not a suffering that you can experience. That every man and dog can. Yes or no, sir? Every man and dog, every beast, every animal, every bird, can they not all experience that kind of suffering? When a dog is about to die, when a dog's been shot in the head, What does a dog do? Laugh? When a dog is hungry, what does a dog do? Laugh? No, it's crying in the language that it knows, which is barking, but it's crying. So why does a dog cry when its litter, when its puppies have been stolen from it? A female dog, why does it cry? Because it's understood the 4 noble truths. Can that be the case? No, this is a dog. So then the 4 noble truths is not about that kind of suffering. It's a completely different type of suffering. Because that suffering is not something to be experienced. It's a suffering that has to be seen through wisdom, through intellect, through intelligence. Actually, no, wisdom is the best term for that. Prajna. Prajna asa. You have to see, not experience suffering. You will have to experience suffering if you don't see suffering. If you have seen suffering, you will be able to stop the experience of suffering. I will give you an analogy to really help you understand this. Our regular listeners will have heard me say this before. There's a man. He's sick. He's sick how? He's got a stomachache, he's got a headache, and he's got a rash all over his body. It's pretty bad. He's in a very serious condition. Diarrhea, migraines, and eczema all over the body. So much suffering. Yes or no? Yes, you will have experiences in some way, shape or form. No one here has never had a headache in their life. No one here can have not had a stomachache or a rash on their body. Each of us have gone through this experience. So there's a man who's suffering. He's crying. He's weeping. A friend comes along and asks him, "Hey, what's up?" He says, "Look at me. I really can't bear this pain. I've got a really griping stomachache and a splitting headache. And this rash all over my body, I just can't stop scratching myself, but every time I do it, it's going to start oozing. I'm in such a state. I can't bear this pain that I'm in right now." This friend, having listened to this man, says, "Oh, you're lucky you met me. Don't you worry. I had the same symptoms. And I've been taking this cough syrup. Or rather, I've been taking this gripe water, which is a really good cure for a griping stomachache. I've got this paracetamol, it's going to cure your headache. And I've got this ointment, if you apply it on your body before bed every night and every morning, then it's going to take away the symptoms." This man says, "You're right. I'm so glad I met you. Can you leave me some of that with me? Some of that medicine with me?" He says, "Of course, here you go." So what this man does now is he starts taking the tablets, he starts taking the gripe water, and he starts applying the lotion on his body. A week passes by. Symptoms start to disappear. At the end of 2 weeks, all those symptoms that he was suffering from previously have gone away. Has the disease been cured? We can find out. How? All he has to do is stop taking the medicine. Isn't that the best way to find out if you've been cured? Stop taking the medicine. So he decides to find out if he's been cured. He stops taking the medicine. No more gripe water, no more paracetamol, and no more ointment. 2 days pass by. What happens to the symptoms? They come back. Sure as hell, they come back. The headache's back, the stomachache is back, and the rash is coming back all again. So then tell me, when he took those medicines, did he cure the disease, or did he only just address the symptoms? Just the symptoms. The friend that came along and suggested that he take these medicines did so because that's all he knows. He had the same symptoms. And he took the same medicines, the same pills, the same drugs. And he's been treating his symptoms all along. What he forgot to say is, don't stop taking them. Ever since I started taking them, I've been taking them every day. If you stop it, they're going to resurface. That he forgot to say. So now these symptoms have come back again. Again he's in bed, but he's taking the pills. And this time round another friend comes along and asks him, hey mister, why are you taking these pills every day? On your bedside, there's every time I come along, you've got medicines. What's the problem? And then he says, well, I've got this headache, I've got this stomachache, and I've got this rash all over my body. The reason you can't see it is because I'm under medication. I'm taking these drugs. He says, how long have you been taking them? Well, ever since I met my old friend. For how long do you have to take them? For how long? Forever. Forever I have to take them. How do you know? Well, I stopped it 2 weeks after the symptoms disappeared, and what happened? Came back. Oh. Then this man says, aren't you glad you met me? He says, my dear friend, this is the best bit, so pay attention. He says, my dear friend, I was just like you. I had these symptoms. I had a splitting headache, a griping stomachache, and a rash all over my body. And just like you, I met the other friend as well. He said, take these medicines, and which I did. To the letter. I followed the prescription to the letter. And 2 weeks later, sure and short, all my symptoms disappeared. But then I experimented, I stopped taking the pills, and guess what? 2 days later, they all came back. So I continued taking them. But one day I realized, this has to stop. This just has to stop. This is not a cure. This is just plastering on the surface. So then I went to the doctor. And the doctor sat down in front of me. He examined me. He took an X-ray. He took a blood sample, a stool sample, a urine sample, and all types of samples that a doctor can take. And then finally he came back with the results and said, my dear man, you have ingested a bacteria. This bacteria has gone inside your body and it lives in your guts. That is the disease. What you are experiencing are the symptoms. It's not the disease. You're experiencing the symptoms. So now this doctor writes down a prescription. Tell me, on this prescription, what might you see? Paracetamol, griping water, lotion, or antibiotic? What might you see? Antibiotics. Why? What is the doctor giving this prescription for? To treat the symptoms or to treat the disease? To treat the disease. The doctor says, take this prescription for another 2 weeks, and the man follows this to the letter. He followed it to the letter. 2 weeks later, the symptoms have disappeared again. So what does he do? Let me check if I have been cured. He stops taking the antibiotics. A day passes by, 2 days pass by, 3 days pass by, week passes by, a fortnight, a month, 6 months. He's been cured, hasn't he? Because he treated the disease or the symptom? The disease. This is the suffering that the Buddha talks of. There are 2 types of suffering, ladies and gentlemen. One type of suffering are the symptoms of the disease. The second type of suffering is the disease. Symptoms of a disease we have all experienced. We all know how painful symptoms of a disease are. Yes or no? Yes. But does everyone know the ins and outs of a disease? No. This is why we go looking for whom? A doctor. A doctor who has gone through his study, 5 years worth of medical college, and then whatever exams that follow up, and then practicing, and then he understands the science behind this. When you go in front of the doctor and say it hurts, he says, yeah, okay, I get it, but that's not why you're here, is it? We've got to treat the disease. The suffering that the Buddha speaks of is the suffering or the disease that the doctor gave the prescription for. The suffering that we just talked about 10 minutes ago, death, disease, old age, decay, frustration, lamentation, sorrow, despair, losing things that we like, having to associate with people and things that we don't like, these are diseases or symptoms. These are all symptoms. Each and every one of them is a symptom. Avidya pacca sankara, sankara pacca vijnana, vijnana pacca namarupa, namarupa pacca salayatana, salayatana pacca passa, passa pacca vedana, vedana pacca tanha, tanha pacca upadana, upadana pacca bhava, bhava pacca jati, jati pacca jara marana shoka parideva dukkha domanasa eva metassa kevalassa dukkha khandasa samudaya hoti. Avidya to jati, disease. Jati pacca jara marana shoka parideva dukkha domanasa, symptoms. Did you get it? Avidya to jati, disease. Jati pacchaya jara marana shoka parideva dukkha domanasa eva metasa kevalasa dukkha khandasa samudaya hoti, symptoms. Tell me, all your life, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, which one of these two have you been treating? Disease or symptom? How long did that man have to continue? Does that man have to continue taking the paracetamol tablets? Forever. How long does this man have to take this griping water? How long has he got to apply that lotion on his body? Forever. What happens if he stops taking them? Symptoms resurface. Now go back to the hospital, cancer hospital, man on bed, struggling for his life. Doctor has said, death tomorrow. Is he suffering from the disease? Is he complaining about the disease or the symptom? Is he complaining about the disease or the symptom? Symptom. Why? Jati pacca, jara, marana, shoka, parideva. Jara is disease or decay. Marana, death. What's he complaining about? Death. Death is what? Disease or symptom? Symptom. He's complaining about the symptoms. What about next door guy who said he was a Christian? He's crying his eyes out because he's lost his mother. What's he crying about? Disease or the symptom? Every time in your life so far, every time you shed tears, every time you got angry, every time you wept, did you cry because of the disease or the symptoms? Your child broke a leg. Child starts crying. Now you start crying. Are you crying because of the disease or the symptom? Symptom. You have to go to work. You don't like it. You're complaining. Disease or symptom? Disease or symptom? Symptom. You try to start your car. Car doesn't start. Broken down. Disease or symptom? If you're suffering because of that. Disease or symptom? Symptom. You got a runny nose. Really annoying, isn't it? When you have a runny nose and it's gone all sore and red like a parrot's. Now you're complaining of the disease or symptom? Symptom. Do you realize, ladies and gentlemen, that all your life you've been trying to fix symptoms? Don't worry about that. That's not your concern. Because if you do, then you're going to be distracted. And when you're distracted, you're not going to hear what I say. Then your journey here would have been a waste. Did you come here to fix that or listen to what I have to say? So pay attention. Otherwise it's your loss, not mine. You're hungry. Disease or symptom? Symptom. You're feeling cold, shivering, disease or symptom. You got a fever, disease or symptom? Symptom. You just been bit by a mosquito, disease or symptom? Symptom. What does science help you do? Treat the disease or treat the symptoms? Science and technology which you have sought refuge in. What does it help you treat? The disease or the symptom? Symptom. Why did you go to school? To learn to treat what? The disease or the symptom? The symptoms. Why did you go to university? Do you realize where this is going? Why did you start to do a job? To earn money, so you can buy all the things you like. What do you mean by that? Buy all the things you like. Because when you buy all the things you like, you don't have the problem that this lady spoke of before. What is that? Not having the things you don't like. When you can buy what you like, now you don't have to suffer from not having the things you don't like. Again, are you treating the disease or the symptom? Symptom. How long must you treat the symptom before the disease is treated? How long can you treat the symptom and expect the disease to be treated as a result? How long? Never. Never, ever, ever can you treat the symptoms and expect the disease to be gone, because if the disease is a bacterium that's gone into your body, the only thing that can treat that is an antibiotic. Not a paracetamol, not griping water, not a lotion that goes over your body. Those are the symptoms. Then old age, disease, decay, death, being hungry, being cold, fear of losing your loved ones. If you get a call right now or a text right now, your phone vibrates. You pull your phone out of your pocket, and on there is a SMS alert from your alarm system at home. Burglar alert. Will you listen to the sermon from that point forward? No, you will hear it. You aren't going to be listening to it. Why? Now you are suffering from symptoms. The Buddha did not come into this world to teach us how to treat the symptoms. He came into this world to show us, here's the disease. Treat the disease, and then you don't have to worry about the symptoms. Treat the disease and you will never have to worry about the symptoms. I'm not talking about next birth. I'm not talking about previous births or heavens and hells. Forget all of that. You don't have to believe in all of that to be a good Buddhist. That's not what Buddhist philosophy is for. I guarantee you don't have to accept any of that. You can consider it, but you don't have to accept it. Can I prove to you that there are hells? Can I give you an audio-video presentation or send down a telescope down to the center of the earth and show you where the hell is? I don't know, maybe science will do that in future, but not today. So what proof do you have that there's a hell? What proof do you have that there's a heaven? What proof do you have that there's an afterlife? What proof do you have that there's life before this? Science is making advancements. Remember, science is not the truth. Science is not the truth. Science is an effort to get to the truth. That's what science is. It's a journey to find the truth. That's what science is. But science is not the truth. The truth is the truth. It's not science. This is why on the journey to get to the truth, the science might sometimes take a wrong detour. Now, if you have sought refuge in science, you're going to take the same detour. Everything's true until proven false. Everything's true in science until proven false. Every hypothesis is true until proven false. Every law and principle is true until proven false. But the truth is always the truth. So what is the truth? Here's the $1 million question. Because it's a $1 million question, I have to charge you all $1 million. How much did the Buddha charge us for this? How much did the Buddha charge you? You know, recently, during our meditation sessions, our Guru Swami Wahanse, he recites this Karmasthana. I think a couple of days ago, when we sat down for meditation, he started to give us this Karmasthana. He said, I'll say it in English, but we practice it in Sinhala. He said, monks, think for a moment about your Shastrun Wahanse, your master, the Buddha. He asked us, when did the Buddha ever say, come to me walking on red hot embers, and I'm going to give you the path to salvation? When did the Buddha say, walk on fire, and I will give you the path to salvation? When did the Buddha say, whip yourself with sticks, and I will give you the path to salvation? When did the Buddha say that? When did the Buddha say, come and worship me? Come on, ye all, worship me, and I shall give you the path to salvation? When did the Buddha say that? When did the Buddha ever say, bring me food, bring me medicines, bring me clothes, make me shelter, and I will give you the path to salvation? Knowing fully well that no one can understand this, no one can discover this without his help. Remember, this is the Buddha. He knows that there cannot be another being in 100,000 world systems that has understood this without my instruction. He knows this fully well. And yet, when did he ever say, come worship me, come crawling to me, come beg at my feet, and if I decide to do so, I will give you the truth? When did he ever say that? Has the Buddha ever asked you to do that? Beat yourself up? Practice asceticism? Practice rites and rituals like a dog? Practice rites and rituals like a cow? Has the Buddha ever said that? Did he ever say, go and torture your body and I will give you the path to salvation? Did the Buddha ever say that? No. But, so this is what Guru Swami Wahanse said in his Karmasthana. And he was saying, think about the greatness of your teacher, of your master, of the Buddha. How when he realized he's the only one that has the key. You can make copies of this key, yes, but I'm the one who's got the key. You have to come to me to take a copy. Once you've taken a copy, you can then take another copy. But the master key is with me. Knowing fully well that that is the case, he never asked any of us to torture our bodies or go through any of that pain. That's what Guru Swami Wahanse said. I listened to that. Here's what came to my mind. In a lot of other religions, you do have to practice that. You do have to stick hooks onto your body. Painful. You do have to slice your tongue. You have to prick yourself. Take a sesame seed and pull out every hair in your body. You have to walk on fire. You have to starve yourself. You have to go hungry, you have to go thirsty. You have to stand on one leg. You have to stand on your head. In lots of other religions. And then it dawned on me, even in Buddhist philosophy, even in Buddhist teaching, You have to do that. You still have to do that. One still has to walk on fire. One still has to take a sesame seed and pull every hair out of their body. Even in Buddhist philosophy. To understand the Buddhist philosophy. To understand the Four Noble Truths. One has to starve himself. One has to stand on one leg. Not for a month, for many months on. The only difference is, in other religions, they expect you to do that. In the Buddha's dispensation, he did it. He walked on fire. He starved himself. He stood on one leg. He endured extreme asceticism. Using a sesame seed, he pulled out every hair out of his body. He cut his limbs off and gave them away. He pulled his eyes out and gave them away. He cut his ears off and gave them away. He beheaded himself. For our salvation. To give you the path to liberation. In other religions, you have to do that. In Buddhist philosophy, it's the master that does that to himself. Thanks to the Buddha, you will never have to go through that pain again. Countless are the times where you've sought refuge in other teachings, gone after other religious teachers. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of that. But the day you seek refuge in the Buddha, you can put a stop to undergoing physical torture for the purpose of liberation. Because that's not where liberation is. The Buddha did it unto himself so that you don't have to do it to yourself. Do you realize how lucky you are? Do you realize how fortunate you are? When all our lives, madam, we've been treating the symptoms of our diseases and not even for a moment thinking to stop what might be the disease. We might have pondered, but never did we have the courage, the guts to go forth and seek. This is why we needed a Supreme Buddha to come and teach us this. You must realize this, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise you don't realize the value of what you have. Every day I sit in front of the Bodhisattva statue and I look at it. Sometimes for many hours. And I think to myself, if he hadn't done this, I'd have had to go through this again. Do you think I wouldn't have starved myself in samsara? Don't you think you would have done that? To try and seek happiness? Don't you think you would have done that? But today you have the gift of Dhamma, the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha's doctrine, which teaches you, stop treating the symptoms. Treat the disease and the symptoms will look after themselves. So, what is the disease then? This is where we need to come back to. This is where it all starts and this is where it all ends. This is the crux of Buddhist philosophy that I'm just going to talk to you now. So even if you didn't listen to the rest of this sermon, pay attention now. What is the disease? What is the cause of the disease? What is the cessation of this disease? And what is the path to cessation of the disease? This is the Four Noble Truths. Not what are the symptoms, what are the causes of the symptoms, how do you cease the symptoms, and what is the path to ceasing the symptoms. That is not what Buddhist philosophy is. That's there in every religion. That's there in science. What is agriculture there for? To help you treat the disease or the symptom? Symptoms. Science. Agriculture is a gift of science. So what is the disease then? The dukkha that the Buddha speaks of is the product of two things coming together. It's the product of two things coming together. What are these two things is now the question. The world that we all live in. When I speak of the world, how do we know we live in a world? Actually, how do we know we live in a world? Is it not because you can see stuff happening? You can hear things, you can smell, you can taste, and you can touch. Isn't that how you know that there's a world out there? If I were to take away your 5 faculties, would you know about a world? No. So this is how you know that there's a world out there. The nature of the world, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's conditioned. What is it? What is it? Conditioned. Why? Because I say so, right? No. Let's see if it is really conditioned. I told you, don't not just because I say so. Because if you do that, I'm going to teach you something that's false. Just out of spite. No, I'm not going to do that. That would split my head in 7 if I were to sit on this seat. Having sought the Buddha's permission to preach his Dhamma, this is why I worship him before I sit down. I ask for his permission. For me to sit down here and give you anything that is not in accordance with the Buddha's teaching would split my head in 7. So I'm not going to do that, don't worry. But pay attention. This world is conditioned. Not because I say so. Actually, not even because the Buddha said so. Let's take a really simple example. Fire. How do you light a fire? A really, really simple example. How does one light a fire? You look to your left or your right and you go, fire. That's how you light a fire, right? No? How do you light a fire then? How do you light a fire, sir? A box of matches. What else do you need? What was that? Oxygen. What else do you need? Something flammable. You need a box of matches, you need something flammable, and you need oxygen. These are the 3 components that make a fire. Not look into your left or look into your right and going, let there be fire. Buddhist philosophy does not believe in a creator. In the sense that you think. But there is a creator. You are the creator of your own world. Ignorance and attachment is the creator of all the worlds. We'll talk about that later someday. I don't want to be too unconventional. That might upset somebody. So, back to our fire. There's something flammable, let's say wood. Now you have oxygen. And now you take a box of matches and you ignite. Now there's a spark, and what happens is temperature of the wood rises. That's how you light a fire, right? How does the fire in the matchstick go to the wood? When you hold the matchstick to the block of wood, its temperature starts to increase. And using oxygen, now a fire has arisen. Because what if the wood was wet? You have a matchstick. Can you light the fire? No, because you don't have enough heat to turn up the temperature. Because these are the three components of a fire, not a matchbox. Temperature, oxygen, and something flammable. Provided these three things have been brought together, who here can stop a fire from arising? Put your hand up if you can. There's wood, there's enough temperature for a fire to ignite, and there's oxygen. Do you dare to try to stop this fire? I challenge you. Can you? No. Can a Buddha stop the fire? Hang on a second. Surely. Can a Buddha stop a fire if there's oxygen, something flammable, and temperature? Can a Buddha stop a fire? No. Because if that were the case, then this world would not be conditioned to a Buddha. If that were the case, you and I won't be here right now. Why? Because he would have changed the world and you and I would have all become arahants. You can't change the world. We'll come back to that. So, fire again. These three components come together, a fire has arisen. Now, have you seen fires in blocks of flats? How when they go ablaze? Who likes a fire in a block of flats? Which of the residents in the block likes the fire? Does anyone like the fire? No. So if you don't like the fire, how do you put a fire out? You start chanting, don't you? No, pray to the gods, right? No? What do you do? If you don't like a fire, how do you put out a fire, Putta? Yes. You spray water. What does spraying water do? Yes. Reduces the temperature. Takes away the temperature. Now, the temperature has reduced, and the temperature is insufficient for a fire to be ablaze. Therefore, what happens to the fire? Extinguish. Now, I have a question for you. Did the fire arise because I wanted it to? Has the fire now been extinguished because I didn't want it to? Or because I wanted to extinguish it? Yes, you might have gone and chucked water at it. But if you hadn't thrown the water at it, just standing by and wishing for it to be extinguished, will the fire go out? No. So what does that say to us about a fire? Is it to our liking or is it conditioned? It's conditioned. What does it mean then to say that something is conditioned? For as long as there are conditions, then you will get a result. For as long as conditions are in favor, you will be able to witness the result. Take a rainbow as another example. How does one see a rainbow? Who brought the rainbow and put it there? The leprechauns, did they? No. So how do we see a rainbow then? Yes, absolutely. When there are droplets of water in the atmosphere and you have sunlight that refract on these raindrops, now you see a rainbow. Can you look at a rainbow and wish for the rainbow to go away? Will it be gone? No. Well, if that were the case, you should be able to wish it for it to appear as well. But when there are causes, a rainbow will be seen. When there are no longer any causes, now there's no rainbow to be seen. So is a rainbow conditioned or unconditioned? Absolutely conditioned. Now, 2 examples. Third example. Your life. Ooh. Now we are talking. Your life. Are you alive because you like to be? There's a really simple way to answer this question. Did your mother and father die because they didn't want to be alive? Did your grandparents die because they didn't want to be alive? If you're alive because you like to be, who here is going to die? Is your child alive because you like it or he or she to be alive? Is your husband alive because you like him to be alive? Is your wife alive because you like her to be alive? I know lots of husbands who don't like their wives to be alive. Is life unconditional or conditional? Conditional. The reason that you're alive right now, ladies and gentlemen, is because you have a heart that's going lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub. The reason you're alive right now is because your lungs are struggling to keep you alive. They're working extremely hard, pulling in oxygen or taking in air and extracting the oxygen from that, taking it all to your cells, into the mitochondria, that's producing all the energy to keep you alive. These are the reasons why you're alive. Your heart's beating and supplying blood through all those blood vessels to the rest of your body as well as the heart. How many blood clots does it take in the coronary artery for a man to die? How many? 1. How many blood vessels, how many blood clots does it need in a blood vessel that takes blood to your brain for one to have a coma? 1. Just 1. So what happened when that 1 came along? The causes that are required to keep you alive were taken away. Just 1 cause. Because mitochondria needs oxygen. No more oxygen. Now, that's it. So are you alive then because you like to be alive? Are you alive because you don't like to be alive? Some people don't like to be alive. Why do you think people commit suicide? Why do you have to jump off a cliff to commit suicide if really life is a result of something you like, is not conditioned? I'll give you some examples. You tell me to stop when I've hit jackpot. Wife, child, marriage, love, friendship, mother, father, house, watch, chain, glass, sun, moon, stars, tree, pet dog, cow, cat. Want me to keep going, or have you found one yet? Is there anything that's not conditioned? Everything is conditioned. Question: what is the danger with conditioned things? They arise when the conditions come together. They will last for as long as there are conditions which support it to last. And when it's time for the conditions to bid farewell, what happens? It's time to say goodbye. Therefore, what's the danger? What happens if you attach yourself to a conditioned entity? When the conditions are there, it's going to rise. Now you go, hey, it's there. Beautiful, gorgeous. I'm going to attach myself. Attach. It'll prevail for as long as the conditions prevail. Now it's time for the conditions to bid farewell. How are you going to stop it? When it's time to pass away, how are you going to stop it? Did your mother ask for your permission before she kicked her last bucket? Did your father come and tell you, Puta, I think I've lived in this world long enough. I've worked hard, I've earned you a lot of money, so if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to take my leave. Is that what your father said? What did he say? It's time to go. Can you do anything to stop it? Please? All this money I've earned, all my property, take everything. Doctor, please take everything you need. Please cure me. Please stop me from dying. Why? What was he attached to? A conditioned entity. What? Life. For as long as you attach yourself to a conditioned entity, be that an object, be that a person, be that an event, for as long as you attach yourself to a conditioned object, be prepared to do what? Be prepared to do what? Suffer. Suffer galore. For as long as you attach yourself to a conditioned object, be prepared to suffer. Now, what are the conditioned things you're attached to? Well, I gave some examples earlier on, didn't I? What are some of the things you are attached to? Let's go through that list again. Wife, son, daughter, husband, wife, mother, father, pet dog, your chihuahua, cow, what else? Your coat, your glasses, your haircut, your face, your complexion, your wristwatch. Name one thing at home that you're not attached to. And then name one thing at home that's not conditioned. All the ornaments in your showcase, why did they come there? Is it because I liked them and I went and put them there? No, who put them there? You put them there. Why? Because you really didn't like them? No, because you loved them. Name one ornament that's not conditioned. What is the nature of all conditioned things? For as long as there are conditions in its favor, it will arise. For as long as the conditions will prevail, it will prevail. And when it's time to bid farewell, now it's time to say goodbye. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the disease. When it passes away, now you start crying. That's the symptom. You attached. That's the disease. There are two things I said come together to create suffering in this world. One, conditioned world. Two, attachment. So I'll give you a formula for suffering. Attachment, product, conditioned world. Or conditioned world multiply attachment equals suffering. So now suffering is 1. To make 1 a 0, how many of these two terms must be a 0? So what's the equation again? Conditioned world times attachment equals suffering. So now suffering is 1. We want to be in no suffering. Suffering 0. How many of these two terms have to be a 0 before suffering is 0? How many? Just 1, right? Which one are you going to change? Which one would you like to change? Oh, okay. Before you answer that, let me ask you this question. Which one have you been trying to change? Oh, I'm so mean, aren't I? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years you've been alive. Which one have you been trying to change? You didn't even touch attachment. Let attachment be. Attachment is beautiful. So you tried to change a conditioned world. You try to change it to your favor. I don't like a conditioned world. I'm going to make it to my liking. Isn't this the story of your life? Changing the world, trying to change the world to your liking. Isn't that how everyone you took lessons from taught you to be happy? Why did you go to school again? To learn how to change the world to your liking. In which school do they teach you attachment leads to suffering? In which math lesson did you learn attachment leads to suffering? Which science and technology teacher came and taught you attachment leads to suffering? Which doctor did you go to said attachment leads you to suffering? Although I do know a doctor now who in her clinics tries to teach her patients. Previously she used to advise them to try and change the world. She came and shared a story with me and she said, now, thanks to the Dhamma, I realize I've been trying to alter the wrong factor. It's not X that needs to change, because you can't change X. Change Y. X is a conditioned world. Y is attachment. Z is the answer. Suffering. Think, ladies and gentlemen, which one have you been trying to change all your life? Name one thing you tried to do to stop attachment. Until you listen to the Dhamma. Give me one thing you did. True Dhamma that takes you to Nibbana is the Dhamma I'm talking about. Not Dhamma that says, because there's nothing wrong with the Dhamma. It's how you take the Dhamma, how you grasp the Dhamma. You go and do a meritorious deed. At the end of that you hope, let me be born in the heavens. May I be as beautiful as this flower is in my next birth. You can't tell me you haven't done these things. If so, you and I have been living in entirely different planets. What is the heavens? Conditioned or unconditioned? Which heaven is unconditioned? Is it Chatur Maharajika, Tusita, Yame, Nimmana Ratiya, or Paranimita Vasavartiya? Which one? Which one is unconditioned? Okay, well, maybe the Brahma worlds then. Which Brahma world is unconditioned? The Rupavachara Brahma worlds or the Arupavachara Brahma worlds? Is there any world that is unconditioned? For as long as there are conditions, they will arise. For as long as conditions will prevail, the result will prevail. When the conditions are ready to go, now it's time to say goodbye. If at that time you have attached yourself to it, that is the disease. Attachment is the disease. 4 noble truths the Buddha spoke of. The first noble cause, or the first noble truth of suffering. He said, there's a world that's conditioned. You're attached to it. Therefore you're suffering. First noble truth of suffering. Then he went on to say, what is the cause for suffering? All along you and I thought, conditioned world is the cause for suffering. The Buddha says, no. You got it wrong. Conditioned world is not the cause for suffering. Attachment is the cause for suffering. Just think, ladies and gentlemen, all your lives, didn't everyone that you came across teach you to attach yourself to something? Didn't they give you value about something? Increase the value in your mind? Didn't they always praise something? I'm not talking about good qualities. Didn't they always try to teach you to attach yourself to something? From the moment you came into this world, your parents, Puta, work hard, earn a lot of money, buy a big house, marry a good wife, be happy. What did they teach you? Attach. Yes or no? Buy a good car. What did they teach you? Attach. What about your friends? What did your friends teach you? Attach, 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 attach. Yes or no? There's a great investment. You should get involved. What did they say? Oh, there's a conditioned world out there. Stock market. What should you do? Attach. There's gold. Attach. I did that. I attached. What was I left with? Piles and piles and piles, heaps and heaps and heaps, and truckloads of suffering. Truckloads of suffering. Because everything I attached to was a conditioned entity. If you want to be happy, given that you tell me your purpose in life is to be happy, ladies and gentlemen, if all your life, what you've been doing up until this point, is trying to change a conditioned world to your liking, remember the fire did not arise because you wanted it to arise. Remember you are not alive because you want to be alive. Remember that your parents aren't alive because you want them to be alive. But are you not still attached to them? Are you not attached to your children? Aren't your children conditioned? When it's time for your child to go, snake bites, child gets into an accident, heart attack, brain tumor, lung cancer, taken to hospital. Doctor says 2 weeks. Now you'll spend every dollar, every penny, every rupee that you have to treat your child. To do what? Treat the disease or treat the symptom? Symptom. Again you fall for it. You're not crying because you're sorry for your child, remember. You're crying for yourself. Why do you only treat your child? What about the child next door? What about the children all over this world who are dying of cancer? I'll give you a choice. You'll be given $1 million rupees, $1 million, whatever. Your child's got a cancer. Kandasami's son in Jaffna, he's got a cancer too. Which one of these two children would you choose to treat? Should I even bother asking? Why is it not even a choice? Why do you not even have to think twice? One you're attached to, other you couldn't care less. So, you keep your attachment and you try to treat the symptom. Parents, did you bring your children into this world because you love your children? Or because you love yourself? Did you not know from the day you came into this world you had to go through education? All the tuition classes you had to run to? All the times you got beaten up, scolded at, yelled at? Did you really enjoy doing your homework? Again, if that's the case, you and I have lived in entirely different planets. Did you like sitting down and writing exams? Did you like doing your scholarships? Did you like doing your O-levels and A-levels? Did you like work? Do you still like working hard for a living? If I were to give you 3 square meals, all the food and lodgings you need, would you not consider even staying at home? How many times have you been wounded? How many times have you had splitting headaches, backaches, stomach aches, cramps, toothaches? You wanted to go to the toilet but couldn't. You didn't want to go to the toilet but it's going. How many times? Did you not realize that the child you are bringing into this world is going to go through exactly the same things? Mother, father, husband, wife start living together. After a while they get bored of each other. That's the truth. How do I know? I told you my story, didn't I? And then, let's spice things up. Let's bring along a child. A bundle of fun. Oh, yes. So why did the child come into this world then? From the moment that child came into this world, all it did was cry. All it had to do was fight for its existence, fight for survival. You know how cruel the world is. If the world's so cruel now, you know how it's going to be like in 50 years' time. You brought a child into this world that's going to live for the next 50 years. You're not going to be around then. You know that no one gives you a free meal. But you brought your child into this world, didn't you? Which child goes to school because they really love to go to school? Did you bring a child into this world because you love the child? Or you love yourself? Did you not ask yourself, after us, who's going to look after all these things we've earned for ourselves? All our property, all our money? Someone's got to be the heir to all of this. You can't just pass it on to the next door neighbor. Can you? No. Has to be your child. So, let's bring someone along who can piggyback all this stuff that I've been piggybacking all along. Think. I'm giving you things to think about. By the way, I'm not saying children now go start hating your parents. It is thanks to them that you've come into this world and now you have a great blessing that is this human life. If you weren't born a human, how would you be listening to this sermon? If you are a preta, if you are a spirit or a demon, or a being in the four great hells, how would you listen to this sermon? You wouldn't have a chance. Thanks to your parents, you were able to come into this world. But parents, you didn't bring them into this world because you loved them. So I'm thinking it from both perspectives. So you can't say I'm unfair. I asked my mother, why did you bring me into this world? She said, because I love you. I said, you didn't even know who I was. How did you love me? When you decided to bring me into this world, you didn't even know whether I was black or white, male or female, whether I was going to be disabled, handicapped. How many parents dish their children, throw their children into the toilet because they have come into this world and now they're handicapped? Why do they do that? Is it because they love their child? There's only one person you love in this world. Who's that? In your pursuit of happiness, you are prepared to do anything, including bringing a poor, helpless being into this world to fight for its survival. You will even do that. Are you feeling proud about yourself right now? Tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. From the child's perspective, entirely different story, I must admit. From the child's perspective, it is because the parents decided to bring, or even by mistake. This is why Guru Swami Maharaj says, even if you're a fatherless child, as in you don't know your father, still that man who might have raped your mother, and as a result of which she became pregnant, and therefore you came into this world, that is still your father. That man might be a drunkard, might be a waste of time, waste of space, but still, that's your father. That's from the child's perspective. Some parents, when they listen to these sermons, and sometimes children, they want to come and ordain. But parents say, no. Parents will come and listen to the sermons, but they won't send the child. Why? Because they love their children, right? If they love their children, and a child genuinely understands that the reason I'm suffering is not because of a conditioned world, it's because of attachment. But every moment I live in this world, all that people I associate tell me, attach, new film, let's go watch. New song, download, listen, beautiful songs. New restaurant, let's go try it. What's this? Attach. I haven't gone into that level on this sermon, but our regular listeners will know how with every chitta that arises and passes away, you're suffering. In future sermons we'll talk about that. Or you can listen to previous sermons. How with every second, you're suffering 1 billion times every second. Right now this might seem like fiction. Listen to sermons or come along to future sermons and we will talk about this stuff. But that is the truth. And when a child genuinely understands that and they decide enough is enough. Thank you Mamma Tata that I have come into this world. But I have to make this the last time I come into this ruthless, meaningless, essenceless, futile existence. And for that I need the association of noble and moral people. Not these time wasters that I have to live my life with at work, at school, parties. I'm not saying all people out there are bad. But what I'm saying is, if they are not a Sotapanna, how many people you know are Sotapannas? If the world out there are not Sotapannas, then they have not understood what suffering is. For as long as they have not understood what suffering is, what are they trying to do? Change which factor? X or Y? X. Which is? Change a conditioned world to their liking. You can't blame them. That's all they know. So if that's all they're doing, what are they going to teach your children to do? Change the world to your liking. Will they ever find happiness doing that? Have you? Did your parents? Your grandparents? If they had no hope, what hope do your children have? Remember, they're going into a world 50 years from now. You're not going to be around after the next 10, 20 years. But your children will. Provided they're going to have a natural death. If the world that we live in today is so corrupted, imagine what it's going to be in 50 years. If you don't give them the gift of Dhamma, you might as well chop their heads off right now. Because if not, they're going to go and chop someone else's head. And for that, they will have to suffer for many millions of eons, again in the four great hells. All they're asking you, Amma, Tata, please teach me how to be happy. Please, I don't know the first thing about this world. I don't know what a doctor is, I don't know what a lawyer is, I don't know what an engineer is. People say these things out loud. Big people, tall people, fat people, they all come and ask me, Putta, what do you want to be? And I say, I don't know, I just want to be happy. And they say, no, you can't be like that, you have to have an ambition. You have to be a doctor. Okay. Now the child goes and asks Amma, what's a doctor? The child doesn't know any of this. All the child is asking you is, how do I be happy? And if you're teaching them, change X and you'll be happy. Why are you cursing your children? If you're teaching your children, up until now, if you didn't know this, you can't be helped. You have an excuse. But now you know. Now if you're still teaching your children to be happy, change X, then you are the biggest curse that has been bestowed upon them. Yes or no? Am I saying something I shouldn't be? Am I corrupting your minds? Am I? Am I not speaking the truth? Tell me if I'm not, and I will stop. But this is the truth no one told me. For 30 years of my life, no one told me this. When I came across my Guru Swami Nuhanse, that's when I got to listen to the Dhamma. But he always says, even now, to this date, don't seek refuge in me. Seek refuge in the Buddha, in the Dhamma, in the Sangha. And that is what I'm going to ask you to do as well. Don't seek refuge in me. I'm an entity. I'm a conditioned entity. But the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, they're not conditioned entities. The Buddha is not the person, which we have spoken about in the past. The Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha are ultimate truths. They will be truth forever. Attach yourself to the truth, you'll be okay. Attach yourself to a lie, that'll be the biggest fallacy. That'll be the biggest disaster of your lives. Okay, I think we've gone over time by a fair bit. Hope I haven't wasted your time. So, I know you have a long way back, just as much as a long way you came here, right? You've come here a long way, haven't you? Sure, man.
How do you say, as laymen, like you say, they are attached to everything. So how should we look at things? Is it looking at it as unreachable phenomena? How do you not attach yourself?
Okay. The question you asked me, madam, you don't realize how profound it is. I can talk about it for the next 3 hours. But I'm conscious of time, so I'll give you a brief answer which does not do justice to the answer, but I can't leave you with a question. The reason we've been attaching ourselves to all conditioned things is because we thought they bring us pleasure. This is why you attached yourself to your children. This is why you attached yourself to your girlfriend, to your boyfriend, because you thought they bring pleasure. They are the source of pleasure. This is what you thought. You outsourced your happiness. Yes or no? Did you not always seek happiness from the outside world? Isn't this why if I put you in a dark room, you can't be there for 5 seconds? There is no noise. There is nothing to see. You can't smell anything. What do you want to do? Get the hell out, right? Why? Because you're looking for what? Happiness. And where does it come from? Outside world. So when you believe that happiness is in the outside world, and the outside world is nothing other than, like we discussed at the beginning, sight, sound, smells, taste and touch, then your expectation of happiness, your expectation of pleasure is bestowed on sight, sound, smells, taste and touch. This is where you look for happiness. But the problem with that is all conditioned things, including sight, sound, smells, taste and touch, are conditioned. For as long as there are causes, they will arise. For as long as there are causes, they will persist. And when it's time for the causes to go away, disappear, now it will cease to exist, pass away. Isn't this what you have attached yourself to? The problem is you've attached yourself to it. Now it's passing away. How's that going to make you feel? When did you ever cry because next door neighbor's mother passed away? When did you cry? You didn't, did you? No, but you cried when your mother passed away. So, is the cause for suffering passing away or your mother passing away? Is it mother passing away or my mother passing away? What's the difference in those two statements? Mother pass away, my mother pass away. Pick out the factor that's uncommon between those two terms, those two statements. My. So what's the cause for suffering then? My. What is my? Attachment. So when you realize that all these things I'm attached to only have the potential to leave me distraught, leave me in despair, leave me unfulfilled, unsatisfied and lamented, then you realize this is not a world worth attaching to. If the only thing your mind can do is attach to sight, sound, smells, taste and touch, just like all conditioned objects and entities, the mind will also arise and pass away. So when the mind passes away, if the mind is now attached to a sight or a sound or a smell or a taste or a touch, now the mind is passing away. Though this chitta, this consciousness is passing away. This is going to be a little bit deep. This is why I didn't want to touch this in this sermon, because we have some new faces. But when you ask a question, I can't leave you with a question. A chitta arises, passes away. In a chitta you have rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana. This is all a mind knows. A mind doesn't speak any other language. This is the only language the mind speaks. Rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana. The 5 aggregates. So when you see a sight, you're looking at a flower. In your mind, rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana have arisen. Why? Because you like it? Or is it because you don't like it? No, because there are causes, conditioned. Cause and effect. Hetupaladham. Because there are causes, now you have the effect. But like all conditioned things, this chitta is also going to pass away. And when it does, you're still attached to the rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana that arose in that chitta. Now what's going to happen? It's going to leave you in despair. So then you begin to realize the only thing that attachment ever brought me was suffering. Yes, we have experienced pleasure, but pleasure is only relief from suffering. To explain that, we'll have to talk for another hour at least. But time you don't have. But listen to all previous sermons where we talk about how pleasure is nothing other than relief from suffering. I'll give you a really simple example. You have a toothache. Now you're suffering. You go to the dentist. The dentist pulls the decayed tooth out. Do you not feel pleasure? So to experience that pleasure again, what must you do? Get yourself a bad tooth, right? You're sat down right now in the posture that you are. But is this the same posture that you sat down when you came into this room? No. How many times did you change posture? You've forgotten, right? If the posture that you sat down in was the most pleasurable posture, then why did you change? The moment you changed your posture, you experienced pleasure. Why? Because you were suffering by that time. The moment you changed your posture, now you were relieved of the suffering. At that point, you experienced pleasure. But pain is starting to build up again. And then there's going to come another point where again you're going to shuffle yourself. When is it going to stop? For as long as you're here, for as long as you're in this world, for as long as you want to be seated, for as long as you're there, you're here, you're in existence, you're going to be suffering. These are the symptoms of the disease. So when you realize nothing in this world ever brought me pleasure, pleasure can only be experienced by relief from suffering. Whether it's physical or mental, still, relief from suffering. That's the only way you can experience pleasure. So we have to talk about this in more detail. In previous sermons, you'll be able to cover some of that. When you realize that, then you begin to understand sight, sound, smell, taste and touch never brought me any pleasure. But these are the things I'm attached to. So if they never brought me pleasure, and the only thing that they are capable of is bringing me pain and suffering, why attach? That is what anicca is. Vexatious. The only thing that they can bring you is suffering. That is their nature. Why? Arises and passes away. Why? Causes there, arise. Causes prevail, prevails. Causes go, pass away. That is their nature. If that is their nature, then the only thing that they are capable of leaving you with is suffering. They never brought you pleasure. That being the case, then this world is anicca. That being the case, attachment to this world is going to leave you in suffering, dukkha. That being the case, is there any meaning to attaching to this world? Anatta. Anatta, na artha. There's no meaning. Meaningless, useless, futile, essenceless. Not anitya dukkha anatma. I can't explain this in anitya dukkha anatma. This is why you have to understand this doctrine. Anicca dukkha anatta. Every time. So that was a very concise and very brief, like I said, I didn't do justice to your question. But thank you for asking the question because it might have been useful to a lot of people. If you come along to future sermons, then we can discuss this in more detail. But also, please try and find some time to listen to previous sermons. Because I don't want to talk every day about how I started my life and the things that I had to go through and the happiness that I sought in my life because, let begones be gones. We need to talk about now and what we have to do from this point forward. But the reason I share some of my stories with you is because these are some of the dreams, goals and hopes and ambitions that you have for yourself. I went down that road. It's just a bad rabbit hole. Don't be the Alice that walks down that. Alice did it once. Let's not be another Alice. You have the Buddha. For as long as, what? You're alive. And you're going to be alive for how long? For how long as you like to be alive, right? For as long as there are causes that keep you alive, you will be alive. For as long as you are alive, you have the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. The only key to unlocking this mystery. The only key. That's why Natti me saranang anyam buddho me saranang varang. That's why Natti me saranang anyang dhammo me saranang varang. That is why Natti me saranang anyang sangho me saranang varang. I'm going to get a telling off in a moment, so I will stop. But really good question. Thank you. Listen to previous sermons. I think we've done about 70 odd sermons now. If not the very first ones, at least the last 10 or so, if you can, listen to them when you come along to the next sermon. Then, I don't like talking. I really because it's quite tiring. But when you're here, I can't just come and continue from where we left off last week, because it's going to leave a lot of you perplexed. What the hell is he going on about? Anicca? What's that? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara? What is that? Yes, you've heard of it before. But you heard it, didn't listen to it. There's a difference. Okay. So if there are no more questions for now, we'll conclude the sermon, because I know you have a long way to go. And is that okay? Before we do so, let us take a moment to chant the Arya Maitriya. I think last week we chanted in English, so this time we'll do it in Sinhala. And then we'll transfer the merits that we have all acquired, and then we'll conclude the sermon. So as I chant it, I want you all to contemplate on the meaning behind these words. Depending on how much you understand Anicca Dukkha Anatta, the more you understand, the more these words will make sense. So if you want to make more sense of it, then the only thing you need to do is improve your understanding of Anicca Dukkha Anatta, nothing else. So it's not me that has to change the words. It's you that has to work on your understanding and your comprehension. So until such time, we'll continue, and I'll chant it, and I want you to think about these words, the meaning behind the words. They're not just words. Think about the meaning behind them and contemplate. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo sansara dahayen midetva sansara rogayen midetva sansara ginnen midetva sansara bhayen midetva sansara anduren midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo raga bandhanayen midetva dvesha bandhanayen midetva moha bandhanayen midetva mara bandhanayen midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo jati ginnen midetva jara ginnen midetva vyadhi ginnen midetva marana ginnen midetva shoka ginnen midetva paridevayen midetva dukkha ginnen midetva domanassayen midetva උපායාසයෙන් මිදෙත්වා යම් පිච්ඡං නලබති තම්පි දුක්ඛයෙන් මිදෙත්වා සංකිත්තේන පංචෝපාදානස්කන්ධයෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා කාම ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා රූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අරූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා සියලු ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අතහැරීම නාතයි අතහැරීම වෙත්වා නොඇල්ම නාතයි නොඇල්ම වෙත්වා මිදීම නාතයි මිදීම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා නත්ති මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං බුද්ධෝ මේ සරණං වරං නත්ති මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං ධම්මෝ මේ සරණං වරං නත්ති මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං සංඝෝ මේ සරණං වරං නත්ති මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං නිබ්බානං පරමං සුඛං. Okay. You know the courage you had to find happiness doing all those things to try and change the world? You never gave up, did you? Now if you understand the Dhamma, if you have begun to at least understand that this is the only refuge we have, this is the only path to salvation, then don't give up. The same vigor, the same determination, the same resolve with which you applied yourself to seek happiness in the world, a path has been cleared up. It's open. All you have to do is use the same vigor, the same determination, the same resolve to practice the Dhamma. First listen to the Dhamma, become a Sotapanna, then practice the Dhamma. You can't practice the Dhamma without understanding it, and you can't become a Sotapanna without listening to it. You can't meditate and become a Sotapanna. You can't read a book and become a Sotapanna. You have to listen to the Dhamma. And that sermon has to be delivered at least by someone who's also a Sotapanna. Now that's not me saying I'm a Sotapanna. Don't infer. Okay? That's not me saying I'm a Sotapanna. But if you want to become a Sotapanna, you have to listen to the Dhamma sermon at least by someone who's a Sotapanna. Because those margapalas are not things that we shout out to the world and talk about. It's a very personal, it's a very private thing. The day you become a Sotapanna, who else has to know? Your colleagues? Actually, you can check if you are really a Sotapanna by who else knows that you are a Sotapanna. That's a good measure. If every man and his dog knows that you are a Sotapanna, if everyone in a 10-mile radius knows that you are a Sotapanna, what are you? A Hadda Pruthajjana. That's what you are. Because these are not things to shout out of the rooftops. These are very personal things, very private things. There's even a parajika that the Buddha proclaimed for a bhikkhu who claims that he has margapala or great human qualities, which includes dhyana, for the purpose of fame, for the purpose of glory, for the purpose of receiving goods and delights and pleasures. If you claim that you have these things, then you are a parajika. So it's not something that we need him to talk about. But each and every one of you must make a firm resolve to be there, to get there. And it's down to you to go and seek them out. They are few and far between, but they're there. They are there. And how do you know a Sotapan when you see one? They have an aura, right? What color is a Sotapanna's aura? Oh no, they can walk on water, right? No, they only walk looking down at the floor, right? That's how you gauge a Sotapanna? Are they in robes, Sotapannas? No. Are only men who are Sotapannas? No. Don't judge a book by its cover. Talk to them about the Dhamma. Discuss the Dhamma with them. See if the Dhamma that they preach to you is something that they understand for themselves in the way that they describe it, in the way that they help you understand it. Is it coming across like something that they have practiced, something that they have memorized, or is it coming through the bottom of their hearts because they understand it? Is it coming through conviction? And does that Dhamma help you to extinguish the fires of Raga, Dvesha, Moha? But no matter what, don't judge people. Don't make assumptions about their margapala. It's not something you can do. Only a Supreme Buddha can do that. Because you don't have the faculty that is required for that. Only a Supreme Buddha will ever possess that faculty. But there's no harm in making an educated guess, but that should only be for your own purpose. Not to go and share with other people, or even go and ask them, are you a Sotapanna? What is it to you? Right? Has to be a very private and personal thing. Okay. Right. Let's conclude the sermon then. Before we do so, let us transfer the merits that we have all acquired to all those beings who deserve the merits, and all those beings to whom we have a duty to pass these merits on to. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, let us once again remind ourselves that it is because of the Supreme Buddha, the perfectly enlightened one, the unvanquished one, the undefeated one, the infinitely compassionate one, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed himself, he went through all that torture, he went through all that pain to understand the Dhamma for himself, so that he could preach this Dhamma for the liberation of all sentient beings that we have this Dhamma today. So let us all take a moment to remind ourselves of that fact. And secondly, let us all take a moment to transfer these merits to all the bhikkhu, bhikkhunis, upasaka, upasikas, who all the way down from the Buddha protected and preserved the Dhamma in the form of the Tripitaka, and also in the form of practicing the Dhamma and preaching the Dhamma, and now that has passed down to us through the ancestors. It is thanks to them, it is thanks to their sacrifice, their dedication, their commitment that today we have the Dhamma. Even despite times where there were droughts, like the Bhaminitiyasaya, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas dedicated their lives to protecting and preserving the Dhamma. It is thanks to their dedication, it is thanks to them shedding their blood, sweat and tears that today we have the path to liberate ourselves from samsara. Therefore, may all the merits that we have all acquired today be transferred to them. If any of them have today been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes, be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits also to all members of the Mahasangha, including the prelates, the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, as well as all the members of the Mahasangha who have dedicated their lives to not only practicing this Dhamma but also the dispensation of this teaching for the liberation of all sentient beings. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Also, let us not forget, taking a moment to remind ourselves that although you have come along to this monastery today, you have come along and perhaps you might have offered alms, maybe made offerings to the Sangha. Do not forget for a moment that although you are here today, it is the members of the Sangha, the Swamin Vahanses of your local temples and the Mehenin Vahans of your local nunneries that have always been by your side. Through thick and thin, come rain or shine, they have always been by your side. Through celebration and through misery, they have always been by your side to help you, to guide you, to assist you, and to help shape your lives so that you become good people. It is because of them that today you are able to understand the Dhamma. It is perhaps because of them that today you have some faith in the Dhamma. It is they who have dedicated time from their lives to teach your children, to send them to give them Dahampasal education, as well as do seal programs and things like that. They themselves donned robes with one purpose in mind, with one determination in mind, and that was to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. However, today they have dedicated time out of their lives for your betterment, for your benefit. Therefore, may all the merits that we have all acquired today be transferred to them. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us take a moment also to transfer merits to everyone and anyone that might have helped make this event a success, from our Guru Swamin Vahanse, who has always been my teacher and whose Dhamma it is that I practice and I understand and preach to you, as well as all the other monks resident in this monastery who look after the daily going-ons, as well as preparing the venue for this sermon by arranging this stage, which has been decorated as an offering to the Dhamma, not to me, but the Dhamma. It is they who have taken the trouble, made the efforts to make your stay here as pleasurable as possible, arranging furniture and making this venue available for your easy listening. Therefore, may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as the Anagarikas who are also resident at the monastery, as well as the members of the Dharamayai Obai Punyabare, the trust charity, or the charity trust, members who dedicate their lives to making sure that this Dhamma is propagated, gets to you, and you're able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So may they all rejoice in the merits we have all acquired today. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to our parents and our teachers who have dedicated their lives to our upbringing. Through our very formative years, they have always guided us, assisted us, and showed us the way, to helped us to abstain from unmeritorious deeds, helped us to fulfill meritorious deeds. So may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those ancestors that have predeceased us, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, grandparents, and so on and so forth, as well as our teachers, not just in this birth but also in our previous births. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as anyone and everyone who might have assisted us, supported us, given us any form of assistance in any way, shape or form throughout our infinitely long journey in samsara. If there is any debt that we owe to them, may these merits repay such debts. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces, It is thanks to them that today we have a country in which we can live in peace and harmony. They dedicated and sacrificed their lives to protecting and preserving our country, fought a 30-year-old long bloody war in which many people were injured, many people died. It is because they sacrificed their lives that today we are able to live in peace and harmony despite our differences, despite our difference in beliefs and opinions and so on and so forth. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as members of the police force who dedicate themselves to the peace and harmony of our country. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. It is thanks to them, ladies and gentlemen, remember that you are able to come along here in peace and harmony, listen to this sermon, because if it was not for them, you would not have the freedom of time, you would not have the privilege of time or this opportunity to listen to these sermons. So therefore, they all deserve the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plains, may they be able to redeem themselves. May through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all men and women who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis, storms, hurricanes, so on and so forth, not just in Sri Lanka but throughout the world. There may be those beings who have been your friends, they have been your family, but also there may be others who have not been friends or family, but only in this birth. In many births in samsara, all of them will have been our mothers, all of them will have been our fathers, brothers, sisters, many, countless times. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, they be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plains. May through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those men and women who have dedicated themselves to leading this country, developing this country, protecting this country. It is thanks to them that today you and I have the freedom of time and space to come along and listen to these sermons. If not for them, you and I will today have to be leading this country. You and I today will have to be developing this country. You and I will have to today will have to be protecting this country. Therefore, may through the power of these merits, they be able to abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to anyone and everyone who might have helped you to get here today, either through providing you with transport, or perhaps by inviting you to be here, or perhaps by giving you a CD through which you got to learn about these sermons and came along. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. As well as that, let us take a moment to transfer merits to everyone and anyone who might be your co-workers, your colleagues. It is because of them that today you are able to be here today. Perhaps some of them are today looking after your ventures, your enterprises, your businesses, your workplaces, and thanks to them that today you are able to be here. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Whatever shape or form, whatever way anyone might have helped you, assisted you, it might have been by offering you a glass of water, it might have been washing your clothes, ironing them, and these are the clothes that you are wearing right now. Whatever they might have done to help you be here today, to listen to this sermon, may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today, in listening to this sermon, in preaching this sermon, in making offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, in all the time that you have spent in getting here, in preparing for this sermon, and may all the merits that you have all acquired today, with every chitta that arose that was meritorious and committed to this cause, empower and energize many men and women just like you and I to become Arahatun Vahanses, and may we all be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatun Vahanses on this blessed land in this very birth itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may you and I and everyone else who have come along, listened to these sermons, taken part, helped in any way, shape or form, be able to become one of those Arahatun Vahanses, one of those Arahat Mehenin Vahanses in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself, in this very human birth itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginnen midatva Dvesha ginnen midetva Moha ginnen midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatar vetva mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatar vetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatar vetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhitatar vetva තුනුරුවන්ගේ සුවිසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බෙලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the noble triple gem be with you all. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.